You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now.
Alrighty, what's going on? How's everybody doing?
Right, it's going.
Doing great.
I am not in the studio today. Obviously, we normally do these shows on Saturday. Had to push it to Sunday because I was traveling yesterday. I am in Portugal, in southern Portugal, in Lagos. Very cool. My first time here. I've been to Portugal before. I've been to Lisbon actually for Monerocon when we did Monerocon here a couple of years ago. But I've never really explored beyond that. So I'm in southern Portugal. It's a family trip, not a work trip. But that being the case, I obviously want to keep the show going. And obviously me being me, tying Monero in wherever I can. On my way over here, I actually put up the bat signal that I'm changing my location from New York to Portugal on XMR Bazaar. And I got some hits. I got some people reaching out, which is super cool because I was looking to trade some Monero for euros. I figure if I'm going to need euros, might as well sell some Monero for it. And surprisingly enough, XMR Bazaar came through.
No
so
shit.
I was very pleased. I haven't made the trade yet, but I have made contact. And yeah, actually, let me pull it up.
You do it live on live stream, docs us.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not logged in over here, so obviously I'm not going to show the convo. But yeah, so I did two things. One, I actually put up a listing and I boosted it. I put up my own listing, Monero for euros in Portugal. So I got to personally experience the boosting process. Super slick, very smooth. Boosted my own post, looking to sell Monero for euros in Portugal to help get the word out, see if people would see that. And then I also just changed my location in my profile. And I listed myself in Portugal. And so I should pop up on the map now. Let's see. If I just, so there's a bunch of listings and businesses. Oh, I mean, not a bunch, but not none. So it's showing like 22 total. And then there's Monero near me posts as well. So I added myself as a Monero near me post. So people in Portugal looking to buy some Monero for euros, hit me up. And then I hit up these two folks that are listed on the Monero near me app. One of them has gotten back to me, and I'll actually be traveling towards his area in a couple of days. Somebody else reached out to me that's actually going to be in this area before I leave. So I have two potential opportunities here to sell some Monero for euros. And it was in a matter of, less than 24 hours. So that's for me, that's really exciting, right? Like that you could roll into a new city, and within 24 hours, figure out how to sell some Moneros for local currency. So very excited about that. We'll see how it pans out. I think it'll be good having some good conversations with them. So yeah, I'm gonna try to do in-person trade, and should be fun. Out of pure need, of course. I'm not in the business of selling Monero, but I often need to live, right? I need some local currency, no matter where I am. So in this instance, I've found people willing to trade Monero for euros. I'm very excited
Is
about
Portugal still one of the top places for like crypto taxes, or are crypto bros still flocking to Portugal?
I don't know if it does much because I think there's a little more uncertainty now of where things are headed. I haven't really kept up with all the laws and regulations here. I think overall, not even just crypto bros, but a lot of like people, not a lot of people, but in the US, people had like Portugal is kind of near the top of the list of where to go, if you want to leave the US and kind of live the European lifestyle, and get some tax advantages. People are, I personally know some people that have moved over here. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but my understanding is there is kind of some uncertainty whether or not things will be as crypto friendly moving forward. But I still do think people are treating it that way. It's cool.
Yeah,
I mean, definitely some Monero users here as seen from the map, which is a cool indication.
Seems to be a little bit of a problem where jurisdictions that were once friendly, they might get a bunch of tax cattle and then change the law from underneath.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. You never have that certainty as to whether or not they'll remain crypto friendly. But obviously at the end of the day, we're not here to trust the state. Right. But yeah, would be nice if we knew that there was a friendly location for Monero users. Well, I thought this was kind of cool too, that this guy, one of the people I reached out to on the Monero map, also has a listing where he's selling minced heath meat. You guys know what that is?
Fuck is a heath?
I haven't even done the Google, but
That sounds terrifying.
Is it horse meat? I have to check.
Sounds plausible. I bet it's good.
It looks good. It looks good. So I'm gonna actually try to coordinate and see if I can get some minced teeth meat.
You know, it very well might just be a typo.
That would make probably the most sense, right?
Because I don't seem to find any results for heath meat.
Okay.
B and H are pretty close to each other on the keywords.
Yeah.
I think it's a typo. You're probably fine.
Okay.
Beef meat.
It is the best explanation.
It's a little bit redundant to say beef meat, but it's totally fine.
Yeah.
You got to capture all the keywords for the searches.
Yeah, so it looks good. He delivers to Portugal and Spain. So I will be attempting, although it looks like he has a negative comment. Oh no, I thought I saw somewhere. Somebody said he didn't deliver his meat. I don't know if that was but he's responded to me, and he's in the Porto area, which I will be in later in the week. So I'm definitely going to attempt to have a beef delivery by the time we have the next Monerotopia show a week from now. So that should be cool. What have you guys been up to? I know, Bawdy, you did a debate. I think we'll talk about that in a little bit. That was cool. How'd that even come together?
Layer 2 Labs hit me up. I've been kind of trying. I keep trying to push back on this guy his name is Super Testnet, and he just he's literally just making up bullshit that's just completely untrue. He's one of these guys that he'll use a whole bunch of technical jargon, technobabble, to completely decontextualize and misplace priorities on information to make it sound like, he's technical. He knows what he's talking about. And then he just completely, his goal is to confuse people that don't know the difference or don't know better or can't argue against him. And he's pretty good at arguing. He's pretty good at using that strategy. So my goal was to try and sort of cap that and not really allow him to just word sell his way into into a bunch of nonsense. So I actually prepared quite a lot for that. I learned a whole bunch about the Lightning Network, and so I have another debate coming up. I don't know against who, but I have another one coming up on tomorrow, actually.
Oh, okay. For a different topic?
No, same topic, Lightning Network. It's with Stoic. So I don't know who I'm debating, but Stoic's going to have me on his channel, and we're going to talk about Lightning Network. Or okay. Lightning versus Monero.
All right, yeah. The Lightning guys aren't letting go, huh?
Most of them, like layer 2 labs, like they're layer 2 pro Bitcoin kind of stuff. The truth is most Bitcoiners disagree with this guy Super Testnet about the privacy properties of Lightning. So it's weird that he's just out there saying all kinds of nonsense. You know, Seth is over it. He's like, okay, this guy is bad faith. I honestly, I still can't tell if he's bad faith or he's just like confused himself. You know, like he might be like kind of have like a high linguistic IQ, but not be able to place things properly. So at any rate, everything was polite enough.
I think it's all trolling. I mean, I haven't listened to the debate, but I think he knows. I think he's cognizant of what he's saying.
I think he knows at least on some level. Yeah, I don't think it's completely innocent, but it might not be completely malicious either.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get to that a little bit more. We'll bring you up as today's special guest since we don't have one lined up, and we can get into the weeds a little bit. We don't need to spend an hour on it. I know you're probably getting a little sick of the topic, actually. But we get an overview. I'd love to get a kind of a rundown of what the major points were that have been made, so we could do that.
Yeah, totally.
And then obviously we have price report. We have a little news. We have no Tony today. Guys, like and share, retweet. Let's get some people in here. Normally we do these shows on Saturday, so I don't think people are used to our time here on a Sunday. We only have about 50 live viewers right now, so if you can, give it a like, give it a retweet. Let's get more people tuning in on Sunday to Monerotopia. Next week, I'll probably move it back to the regular Saturday time. We'll be settled in our new location. Yeah. Oh, another thing I want to bring up, Zach Shapiro. I had him on Monerotopia a few days ago. I think it was Thursday. I don't know, it's all kind of a blur right now. That was a really cool, really awesome interview. I recommend people go check that out. Give it a listen. We spoke about the 3 bills that they're trying to pass that have almost basically passed. I think they just need to be signed off at this point, or at least 2 of them. It's the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and then the elimination of or the banning of CBDCs, central bank digital currencies in the US. We went into the weeds a little bit on each one. There were some disagreements between Zach and I and on kind of where we stand on this legislation. Obviously, Zach is much more well-versed than I am. He's one of the guys kind of behind the scenes, helping make this legislation happen. He's a managing partner at Rain's law firm. He's head of policy at the BTC Policy Organization. Very well-informed dude. It was amazing to have him on the show, actually. And I spent a good deal of time talking to him about Monero, too, trying to get his take on Monero. He's also, a Bitcoin OG. So there was that turned into a little debate. Me being me and Monero Talk being Monero Talk. Whenever I have a Bitcoiner on, I can't help myself but to go down that road. So we had a whole discussion on fungibility. Zach is one of these guys that doesn't believe that Bitcoin is not fungible. So I'm sure you guys have all heard those arguments that technically Bitcoin is fungible if you ignore the fact that it's a traceable ledger and that people can associate histories to transactions. Technically, it is fungible. I don't buy into that argument. I think effectively Bitcoin has proven not to be fungible, but definitely go ahead and give it a listen. I think the most interesting part of the conversation was when we talked about the Clarity Act. And so Clarity Act is a bunch of things where they're trying to clarify regulations in the US with regards to crypto. But for what Zach is saying, and I haven't since had the time to kind of really go confirm myself, there is some language in there that potentially is arguably very bullish for privacy coins and privacy crypto tech. So things like Monero and Tornado Cash and Samurai, basically protections, clarifying that these tools should would be mandated as legal to use, legal for people to access and use, and legal for developers to develop on, and to clarify that nodes couldn't be labeled as money money transmitters. So some real bullish language that's potentially part of this bill. I say potentially because number one, it hasn't all completely passed, and number two, this could be something like where when it does eventually pass, like last minute they pull out like, you know, one of these paragraphs here that would actually cement something like Monero as not being, you know, ever able to be considered illegal in the US. So we'll see, because if it gets through, I mean, according to Zach, it would be quite bullish for Monero in terms of what the language is and what they're saying in terms of protecting the developers' freedom to develop tools like Monero and Americans' ability or you know, abilities to access and use tools like Monero, and which could then open the way for exchanges to not feel as apprehensive listing Monero, because then there would be more regulatory clarity, less concern that they, you know, will have to deal with banking regulations because what would be clarified in this bill. So I know there's a lot of people out there who were anti crypto bills when these bills have been mentioned and discussed. Me personally, I see the Genius Act as a thumbs down. I do kind of think it's a backdoor CBDC, and I also just think it's propping up fiat. It's kind of it's a win for fiat, not a win for crypto. It's a push towards getting more people to use stablecoins. We're already seeing it, right? The market is already using stablecoins more than any other cryptocurrency for actual peer-to-peer cash-like transactions, even though it's, you know, traceable, right? That's what people are using because it's stable, right? They don't have the risk of their money changing in value relative to whatever their currency is as they're transacting with it. People, you know, they desire that stability. So a lot of people prefer to get paid in stablecoins, and we're seeing that play out in the marketplace. Billions of dollars more in market cap in terms of transactions happening with stable coins than with things like Monero and Bitcoin. Even obviously Bitcoin is used, but it's really used as a store of value, and for speculative reasons, not too many people are using it to transact. People are using stable coins, and I think that's kind of unfortunate to see. And sure, if the market's going to choose that, then let stable coins win out of pure market reasons. But now it seems like they have an advantage in terms of the government bolstering them up, supporting them, and then using stable coins as a means to prop up the US dollar. So this becoming a kind of a new avenue for governments to sell treasury bonds, things like that. It becomes an escape valve for that, and it props up the dollar, right? I mean, sure, I'm an American, I want a strong dollar, but the original goal of crypto, at least in my mind, was to, one, destroy fiat, and two, to opt out of the system and allow people to transact out of the surveillance state. And these stable coins really do the opposite for both of those things. It strengthens fiat, and it moves people towards a tool where if they are transacting and they think they're using something outside of the state surveillance system, they're really not. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have any opinions on that. I recommend people go watch this interview. It was really cool. Zach obviously takes a completely different opinion. He thinks this is all great, including the Genius Act portion. He does think that the central bank digital currency ban aspect probably won't go through, but these other two will, the Genius Act and the Clarity Act. So I don't know if you guys are following that, you have any opinions, but yeah, that's what's happening with that.
Yeah, I haven't followed it too much.
I
I mean, it's
I
pretty
just
big
assume
deal.
that whatever they're passing is bullshit. So I just
Yeah, that was my take too. So like I said, the one eye opener is this language that's part of the Clarity Act that might actually, that's like, sounds like like really good, like almost like a too good to be true thing. So we'll see if that language gets kept in there.
Yeah, there's usually like they'll throw a few things in these bills that seem all right. You know, I've noted, right, so they can get some popular support just enough. Everyone can have a little something, but there's so much, you know, these bills are so huge that it's just all the pages and pages of the other stuff that no one's ever going to read, including the people that passed it.
Yeah, but I mean, these things that they're potentially letting in, it's not just a make a few libertarians happy or whatever. It would have long-lasting effects. I mean, where tools like Tornado Cash and Samurai Wallet and Monero would, you know, be codified as being completely legal. So it's kind of a big risk on the side of the U.S. government. They're giving up that, you know, that attack vector that they have, where they're saying, okay, we'll no longer go after the developers, and there won't be this threat overhanging users. So I mean, in my mind, I mean that's a major win.
Yeah, it's a bit weird to me that they would pass that while not appropriately pressuring the New York Attorney General to drop their case against Roman Storm, which is currently ongoing, which I'm sure we'll get to in the news. I actually had kind of a slight theory that's like pro crypto, government pro crypto, even that they know that they're going to lose this case against Roman Storm, and so they just continued it anyways, so that they get the official precedent in federal court about the legality of the activity that he was doing, and that could happen simultaneously with this, or near simultaneous with this act. Now, I know that's kind of like a pro-government. It's not really pro-government, but it's like a good interpretation of what's going on. I'm not saying that's what's going on, but it's it's something that crossed my mind. You're muted, Doug.
Sorry about that. Mr. Vapor saying, according to the Clarity Act, Monero may be qualified as a mature blockchain, which would subject it to reduced regulatory oversight. Yeah, things like that. And I'm going to try to find the clip and send it to Tux or whatever. I'll pull it up myself during the news. If I can find the good clip of Zach talking about this aspect of the Clarity Act that I'm referring to, that would be bullish for Monero. We got a XMRchat Monero super chat pseudo tipped 50 cents. Hi, Bawdy. How do you determine your trade position sizing, or any advice on tracking your P&L, risk management, etc.? Do you do back testing of your strategy? Me not having this stuff stops me from trading more, as STRD, Deb, etc. useful in this case. Standard deviation, etc. useful in this case. I don't know, Bawdy, if you want to answer that now.
Yeah, there's videos. there's videos and lots of material to cover all of these things. So I won't be able to really speak to them with any depth. But the answer is, can you keep that yes. comment pulled up just so I can reference? Yeah, so if you're trading purely algorithmically, then yes, you definitely need to do back testing. If you're trading, like lately, the trade has been to trade the news, right? Like whatever, you keep your eyes glued to the news screen when the new thing comes out, right? Just trade it as soon as you can. Make that hit and then get out, because the news just keeps on coming. Other times, algorithmic trading is more successful. Perhaps algorithmic trading would have been successful here. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm a blend of all both, because I don't truly do algorithmic trading. If your trading is more along the algorithmic style, what you need to do is absolutely you need to determine your position sizing on the basis of your win rate. So what you could do, and even if you're not trading algorithmically, what you could do is say, okay, let me take some sample time frame, let's just call it a month, trade with some very small amount, right? It's nothing that's going to even come close to breaking the bank. Like, right, if you're trading with $100,000, trade with like $100, $500, and then keep track of your win rate. You can take your win rate there, and then you can do some basic statistics, some basic modeling, and say, okay, under what different conditions, assuming this win rate and this loss rate, and then your break even rate, and then determine, okay, if I size my trades at position X, then what are the swings that I could endure? The thing that you want to make sure is that you're not trading so that you have a 1 in 10 chance of hitting lose, and then wiping out your account, because that's game over, right? So if you really want to get into trading, you really have to go watch all the videos and read the material. I'm sorry that I don't have any like specific books to say, go read this holy grail book of everything that you need to know about trading. Confessions of a Stock Operator is one that I haven't read, but the only people that I actually like, my only friends that I truly respect that are good traders, always talk about that book. I should go read it. I just don't read books. I'm ignorant, I guess. Anyways, yeah, make sure that you get a win-loss rate over some sample period of time, and then you do the basic modeling. You can do it in an Excel spreadsheet or a LibreOffice spreadsheet. And then you can say, okay, I only have a 1 in 100 chance or a 1 in 1,000 chance of actually wiping out my stack. It should be like 1 in 10,000, something like that. It means that your trade sizes will be smaller than you want them to be, but the name of the game is consistent wins over time, not get rich quick. So hopefully that answers enough of your question there.
That was an incredibly generous answer for what was a ridiculous super chat for 50 cents. Moving on. I guess with that being said, do we want to actually move into the price report?
Let's do it. Yeah. I would like to make it a relatively quick show today, so we get back to fam time over here. I'm sure you guys got things to do as well. It's a Sunday, not a Saturday. A little bit more, even more of a family day than a Saturday. So yeah, let's move it along. Bawdy, if you want to go ahead and jump up and do price, and maybe we'll run special guest segment after that. We get your LN versus Monero take.
Cool. Yeah, I can fly through this price report. Not too much has changed. So
awesome.
Whoa, $82 super chat from Sheldon. Doug, you work hard and do a lot for spreading the word about and creating tools for the use of fungible private cash. I appreciate and support you.
Wow, Sheldon, thank you very much, man. Greatly appreciate that. Really appreciate that. $81 just tipped. That might be one of our I don't know if it's the largest, but definitely one of the, I think, top 5 largest XMR chats we ever received. Really appreciate that, Sheldon. Thank you so much. Thank you. Guys, don't feel obligated to have to send such large amounts. While I obviously do appreciate it, and we put that towards XMR chat development. I've said that in the past. We'll be sticking to that. Just use XMR chat. You could send 10 cents, 5 cents, just so we could pump those Monero transaction counts as we use the chat feature.
Awesome. That was very nice, Sheldon. With that being said, let's move into the price report.
The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
All right. So,
Bawdy, take it away.
Yeah, so we've got am I screen sharing?
Yes, you are.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah, so we've got Monero price had a little bit of a pump recently in the past week, and then sort of came back down a little bit. This is one of those things where he said, yeah, expect some positive motion with Monero in terms of the rest of the market, because we're basically expecting them to go up at this point, which it has been on all counts, stocks, crypto. And Monero got a nice little bump here, and then we sort of had a little pullback as well. So again, the thing is that the new liquidity tends to go into all of the shit coins and all of the stuff that's going to make the suits money. So we get some hand-me-down liquidity at the same time, right? People in general, they get excited. New people come into the market. Existing players, privacy is a big deal now. So people are like, well, let me buy some privacy, right? Let me buy Monero. And there's a bunch of privacy shitcoins trying to compete for that for that same kind of attention. Yet at the same time, we came up to this level here, and that's, again, these are statistical levels. This is not an unsurprising place to have found some kind of top. I call this wave magic. It's just standard deviations. It's not anything. It's not at the level of the Bitcoin regression analysis, which we'll take another look at today, since we're breaking through to new highs. It's not nearly at the same kind of power. It requires a lot of interpretation. It actually took me a couple years to figure out how to interpret these charts. But at any rate, Monero is doing reasonably okay. We're sitting here at about 327 today on this lovely Sunday morning. So we will go higher at some point. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of, it might not happen immediately as the other coins pump. So don't be jealous. Be happy that we outperform them in bear markets and that overall our price has done actually quite well relative to all the other shitcoins over long periods of time. So let's take a look at how we're doing relative to Bitcoin. You can see here that obviously Bitcoin is doing slightly better. We continue this kind of downtrend after having peaked out at kind of a very obvious spot. This line goes back many weeks, many years. We'd have to look at the weekly chart to see that. We're not going to take a look at that today. Try and keep it fast here. But the simple fact is that, we might have a little bit more downside relative to Bitcoin. Probably this cluster of lower standard deviations is a place to look for some interim support. It is kind of a zone here. So you could even hypothetically say that we might end up in this area. I hope not. In some ways, I kind of hope so, because that means the market is pumping, right? And so if you got anything, you're going to be making money. I just, at this point, I don't think that unless Bitcoin's going to pump bigly, it's hard for me to see the XMR BTC ratio going down significantly. So I sort of associate this going down with Bitcoin going up, at least in this particular moment in time. So looks like we had KuCoin had a little spike down here, but not for very long. This is a 5-minute chart. Okay, nothing there to really see with the divergences. I guess we're losing to ETH lately. ETH has been on a tear. ETH has actually pumped quite a lot, and we'll take a look at the Bitcoin dominance. But ETH has made some massive rebounds. So yeah, we've kind of fallen out of the bullish channel here. All right, it is what it is. If you got some ETH bags, maybe you're celebrating or something. Market cap dominance, same story, right? We just looked at ETH and Bitcoin versus Monero, and so it's the same story here with market cap dominance. We're sort of, we had this nice peak. This is where, again, not everything works out. And this is also why I say I don't like the TA on Monero quite as much as some of the other stuff, because, you've got this sort of clash of fundamentals of the coin versus just nonsense hype, money printing, like the Bitcoiner mantra over the past 2 years now has been, let's use the money printer to pump our price, right? Like it used to be, let's have digital freedom money that was honest. And now it's like, well, you got to play the game, bro. Let's just get BlackRock and Michael Saylor to use bonds and take loans and print that money and make our bags pump. It's good for the world. If it's good for Bitcoin, it's good for the world, definitionally, right? Pre-definition that. Anyways, I digress. So yeah, Monero's doing fine, guys. Probably we're just going to have some more stability, right? That's what we tend to have. We have the big spike up. Who knows? Maybe some other major event, some fundamental event will happen here, and we'll see another liquidity spike up. Not too sure. I don't want to make any claims there. But eventually, we will see Monero's US dollar relative price move towards the upside here. I do think it's almost like this foregone conclusion now that we are in the bull market, right? We have sustained higher highs. Finally, we've gotten through the macro scare, and like nobody seems to care about it anymore. So yeah, moving on here to Bitcoin. You can see that Bitcoin actually did. So we talked last week. We said, hey, look for another leg up here in Bitcoin before some longer consolidation period. And we said these purple bands are the place to look for that next leg up. And that's exactly where we hit. And at this point, we are consolidating, right? You see a little bit of drop off in the volatility. Maybe we can come down to the 1 hour, see if we can see anything more, I don't know, more useful for our trading purposes. At this moment, I would probably trade these bands, right? And remember, there are standard deviations. So they account for, like, including the upper and the lower, they account for 66% or 67% of the price action, which means that about 16% can happen above, and about 16% of the price action can happen below. That's why you see these wicks that get down there, right? And these little wicks that get above. So just know, like, if you're going to trade these bands like that, just know that you have to account for that you need to not get wiped out on a wick up, on a spike up. And you could even set your entries a little bit higher in these bands, right? You might not always hit them, or you can scale in, right? There's different ways you can do this. You could scale from small positions, low leverage, and then a little bit higher, and then set a cap and say, okay, after that, no more, and then set yourself a stop loss, or maybe your liquidation is your stop loss, depending on if you're using cross margin or not. That's all in the weeds. Anyways, yeah, I would expect here sideways chop from Bitcoin at this point for the next like week. So somewhere in the neighborhood of these bands that we're already seeing. I wouldn't expect a new all-time high immediately, but you know, it's going to make new all-time highs eventually, just probably not in the immediate sense. In the immediate sense, what we're looking at, let's go to the dominance here. What we're looking at is alt season. Is this it? With the Japanese man and his palm towards the butterfly, is this alt season? I don't know. Maybe. It certainly looks the beginning of what could be an alt season, but also this kind of looked like the beginning of what could be an alt season, and it turned out not to be. Probably because the tariffs came in here and scared everyone. So it was like, you know, we got the big pumpage, and then the tariffs came along, and then people were starting to see the macro patterns. They were noticing patterns again. Bad people, stop doing that. And then so the market kind of like, I guess, it sort of capped out, right? The stocks sort of capped out for a period of time. Then we did get that crash. So right now, it actually does look like this might really be the first salvo of alt season. So I don't know. Let me say I'm going to give it 70% that this is the real alt season, trademark, registered, copyrighted, etc. Where is this going to go ultimately? Let's go to the weekly chart, and you can see some pretty obvious spots. If this really is the alt season and we are engaged in the next bull market, the big blow up, we're looking for these areas right here. Right? We're looking for the standard deviation areas down there. Or we could also try and say, hey, let's look at the pleb lines, right? This right here would be a beautiful pleb line, wonderful, the best pleb line. And you would expect to hit that. In fact, I would expect over many years now at this point, this chart is showing at this point consolidating volatility, right? So we had the big spike up in the last bull market. We didn't quite make it there this time, assuming again that my 70% WAG wild ass guess, it's a swag, it's a scientific wild ass guess, assuming that is going to hold, right, and that we're actually in a real bull market alt season, then we're going to come down here, and we're probably over the course of many years, 2027, 28, 29, we're probably going to see a consolidation of volatility here on very long time frames. That would make too much sense to me. Crypto does seem to be stabilizing in a lot of ways, so it would make a lot of sense that this dominance chart would actually stabilize. So anyways, that's, you know, very, very long time frames to look at. By the time that we get there, no one's going to remember that I said that, so I can pretty much say whatever I want when I talk about years from now, and that's a trick. Just watch out for people trying to play that trick. So let's see, Ethereum. I guess we should talk about Ethereum because it came back bigly, right? Ethereum's now sitting here at 3,800 after they released the ETF. And I guess they just dumped on the market, man. I don't know. I've heard there was a big hack or something. One of the early Ethereum foundation guys got hacked. That was an incredible move, right? You don't typically see moves like this that completely disrespect. So this is the Ethereum versus Bitcoin chart that just completely disrespect headliner areas. Like this fall off was insane. Now it's coming back to the upside. So I kind of have the impression that was probably some level of bullshit right there, right? That was probably some level of insider trading or whatever. I don't know. That's just my speculation. The real winner apparently this week is XRP. Boom. XRP just jumped above everybody. And you can actually see Monero here, and the dark red is actually anemic compared to everybody else. This is how you know, again, that this is the money printer in action, guys. The suits have been in crypto for years and years and years, and people are finally realizing it. But this is the money printer in action, right? This is the speculation machine in action. They know what they're doing. They see the flows, right? Probably people now everyone's comfortable, so people are moving into risk again. They see the funds flows onto the exchanges. They pump them ahead of time, right? They do all that stuff. They even do that on traditional markets. They just have to hide it a little bit more. Anyways, Monero's, just kind of like trending sideways. And it's kind of funny. This would actually be this would be very reminiscent of the 2020 and 2021 action where Monero went first, right? Monero had a big pump, and then shortly thereafter, Bitcoin pumped, and then everything pumped. So that, I am kind of like speaking in generalities. It's sort of vagaries, forgive me, but there's a slight reminiscence there. Okay, let's go to the macro. Not too much happening. The dollar index, we said, hey, we hit this very long. This is a decades long trend line. I know you can't see it. We're not going to go back all that way. But this is a decades long trend line. So we hit that. It wasn't too surprising to get a little bounce there. Again, the name of the game when it comes to the macro stuff, you just want to see stability, right? If you see stability, everything should be fine. Oil, stable, right? We had the big moves and everything and the rebounds, and oil's been stable for the past weeks. Reverse repos, I don't really actually think this chart tells us a whole lot anymore. again, we're looking for violent moves that are sustained. We get these spikes, right? But these are moves that go up and then down. Who knows what that is? Maybe an institution that needs, I don't know, safety for a night or a couple nights before they reallocate funds. Could be something like that. And why not get that percentage, right? When you're moving billions, that overnight rate is still something, right? So why wouldn't you do that if you have access to it? Gold doing not a whole lot, actually. Gold, kind of funny, gold and Monero seem to have a similar feel to them right now, where they made big moves early and then they're sort of chopping sideways. If the stock market continues doing what it's doing and they can manage to suppress gold, and you bet your ass they can, especially after a big move like this, it could be the case that they will cap and suppress gold here for a period of time until people voluntarily decide to go in for more risk. And this would, again, be very, very much in line with the stats that I showed you guys, the recursive standard deviations. Is it going to come up here? Does it not want to do it? It could, maybe it wants to. It's just, oh, you know why I'm on the 2 hour, not daily. Here we go. All right, yeah. So you can see this purple line right here. I talked about this line for a long time. Once you tap that, it's effectively, that in my mind, it's amazing how the recursive standard deviation, a unique statistical concept that I actually made up. Drunken high one day in Mexico City, believe it or not. It was late at night. It was like 2 a.m. I told my buddy, he's like, yo, I need your laptop, please. You have TradingView, right? It's like, he's like, why? It's like, I thought of an idea and I have to code this. So I spent literally like until 6 a.m. coding it. It took 4 hours because I was drunk and high. But I got it done, and then I checked it later. Don't worry, I didn't just let it sit there. I checked it many times afterwards, sober. And anyways, this purple line is incredible. I don't know why the recursive standard deviation, the lifetime recursive standard deviation, is so good at predicting tops, but it just is. So yeah, gold is probably in the toppy zone right here, guys. I hate to say it, right, but that's just the reality that we're looking at the moment. Maybe it can go higher. Certainly, it could disobey my my wild speculations. And here's a way that let me show you one way that it actually might be able to disobey. Here's the S&P 500 drifting higher. Same with the NASDAQ. But the only other regression analysis that was actually like really solid was the S&P 500 regression analysis. And where we are at right now is kind of a place where it's like, man, things are really almost fairly out of control. So the overall line, the blue line, is really, really good. The red line is kind of my attempt at extending that in some kind of like statistically congruent way. I was unable to get it much higher than that. But you can see that's, this is sort of the middle of the pack. With Bitcoin, we have the boundaries, right? We have the upper and the lower boundaries. With the S&P, the boundaries aren't quite as good. The green line, I had to do some finagling to make that green line work. So I didn't feel totally comfortable with it. But the blue line is amazing, guys. The blue line, I feel, works really, really well. The point is that if we're looking at this trend line right here, right, this goes all the way back to the first time that the Federal Reserve blew up the market in 1929. And then again with the .com, we are now along that same trend line with the .com, right? We are the S&P 500 is basically peaking out there. And so if this thing gets above and does that, that's kind of a sign that like the money printer really is being an exponent of an exponent as opposed to just like normal exponents. I know I just said that like a retard on purpose. But yeah, if we start seeing this S&P 500 go up here, then I'm going to actually have to reevaluate my claim that this would be the top for gold. But it's hard for me to envision gold getting much above this line. Maybe it does something where it sort of rides this line, right? Maybe it kind of does this over time, right? And it just sort of meanders up slowly. Anyways, that's some possibilities, right? Just exploring possibilities there. But I do wonder if gold isn't at an either an interim top or like the big gains, like the 2x gains that you want to get for gold. Like it might be the case that those big gains are gone for a period of years until we get maybe something else. But that's not to say gold couldn't make new highs, right? That's not to say gold couldn't ride that purple line. I'm just saying that everything that I've seen over the years with this recursive standard deviation concept, that purple line has somehow magically called tops, and it's like, how? Like nobody had that. Like no, I haven't found that concept anywhere. So no one's using it to trade. So maybe it's just useful because it's the reason we use mathematics like that is because the markets are a real economic process in action. And so we want to say, hey, can we find ways to model that economic process? And if you can, then it's not because it's obeying the model, it's that the model is obeying reality or tracking reality reasonably well. Anyways, Don't need to go too crazy with any of that. There's nothing that I care too much here about the macro. We're going to start looking at velocity, although this chart is very, very delayed. Like the last numbers that we have for velocity happened from January. So I wish maybe there's another place. I need to look harder to find recent velocity numbers, because velocity correlates with inflation. So that's one reason that they had such low inflation all the way from 2001. Velocity was decreasing the entire time, and that's one way they were able to hide inflation. And you'll notice when did velocity kick up? 2022, all through 2022 and most of 2023. And when did we have the inflation? Exactly at the same time. So velocity ticked up, and we got a lot of inflation as a partial result. And you get velocity changes even in Austrian economics that can cause inflation, absent discoveries of gold or printing or creation of shitcoins, perhaps. Bonds, nothing that we care about has happened in bonds. It's just the same, right? It's stable. So again, the name of the game, if macro is stable, then you can expect to drift higher, at least, maybe with some big upside potential. So macro stable, macro's fine. Monero transaction counts are also stable, sitting about 20,000, 25,000. Cool. And so is the hash rate, mining difficulty per day. Yeah, mining difficulty per day actually seems to want to center around 600 gigas now. So that's cool. We've continuing to go up here. I have to imagine that could be potentially a sign of more adoption, more people getting into Monero, positive price. We have done basically a 2x in price lately, and we have had maybe not a 2x in hash rate, but we have had increasing hash rate. So yeah, there's probably some correlation here. Maybe one day I'll actually do an analysis to try and say how closely, along what timeframes is the hash rate maybe correlated to price, and maybe try and come up with some dubious mathematics to create some sort of model to integrate the transaction counts as well. But maybe I'll do that. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I don't trade Monero, guys. I just buy Monero, and I hold it. I use it. And if I have to top up my bags or I want to move some shitcoin gains, then I'll do that. I think I told you guys we're going to look at the Bitcoin regression analysis. So we will do that and then call it a day. So / if you're if you're doing this and clicking on here, right, clicking on your indicators, you're doing it the slow way. Just use your pinky finger and hit that / button, and then you can get to the indicators that way. And you never have to take your hands off the keyboard. Bitcoin regression. Okay, so we're going to add that to the chart. Let's go to the daily. And that's a lot of lines. Let's go to BLX. I don't think I have nearly as many lines polluting the chart. Okay, so here's the daily. The red line, as we've talked about, the red line is the upper boundary for those who aren't believers. I know some of you never will be because you just don't believe in math. That's fine. You don't understand statistics. You were never taught or educated, or that's fine if that's what you think. But you're wrong. So anyways, the red line is the upper boundary of Bitcoin price, derived in a canonical way by applying the tool called regression analysis, or best fit lines, doing it in a way that is consistent with the methodology. And it has worked very well. So anyways, you DCA out of Bitcoin as you approach the red line. The last time right here, this red line is not defined at all on the basis of this point. This red line I defined on all of the other blow off tops, and then we came within a percent in 2021. So it doesn't mean it has to hold perfectly in the future. It could be that more people are actually seeing this now. I guarantee you that the smart guys that actually do trading firm stuff have this, but they're not going to share it with the world. So I'm here to give you some things that those guys might have that they're not going to share. Point is, right now, if we were to like smash, we would go to 190,000, right? Maybe we do it later this year. If we believe the 4-year cycle, we could be looking at about 200,000, let's say October, right? November, October was when we peaked last time. Actually, it's been December, November, right? So working backwards, 2017 was December. And then the most recent one, this was a November peak. And then so maybe it's an October peak. If that was the case, it would be around about 200,000. So that's really anything above like 180 is where you want to start DCAing out of Bitcoin. Just do yourself a favor. I know y'all are all hodlers and you're true believers, but do yourself a favor and take something off the table, right? Like, what's the point of having money if you can't use it to live your life? So, yeah, that would be interesting. I really am excited to see if this line holds again. There will be no more, because I kept this close to the vest early on when I made this. And so there are people out there that doubt whether or not I actually did that, and like, oh, you just did it after the fact, bro. Like, fuck you, I did not. But that's okay, Mr. Wall. And we'll get to see, hey, does it perform well again, right? And all these people that are like, no, this is stupid, and it, math doesn't work and stats are dumb. They can they can tell me I got lucky again, I guess, but we'll see, right? I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I think there's a good chance that we are in a real bull market. This line is going to continue to go up. We're going to somewhere approach this red line. Everyone will be celebrating with champagne. So that's I guess that's about all I got here, guys. Yeah, I don't see any reason to drone on any further. Yeah, we covered all the important stuff.
Silver is up since I guess a couple months ago. This year's gone up a lot in general.
Let's look at silver. Actually, let's go to my gold and silver chart. I don't know which gold and silver chart is it. Maybe this one. So here we have XAU divided by XAG. So gold divided by silver. Silver is it's like in the past 3 months it has done better, but overall you would actually say that silver is kind of downtrending versus gold over the past few years. Let's see, what has it done? It has outperformed gold by 15% though. And maybe it is about time for silver to outshine gold, right? That could be the case, like with gold probably reaching somewhere. Like it's not maybe not necessarily it's a blow off or whatever, but it's going to slow down at best. Gold will continue drifting higher slowly, but it's I don't see it making like 5,000 anytime soon.
When's precious metals alt season?
I guess I don't know, man. Like they demonetized silver, no one wants it, and
I know, dude. Like
industrial,
anything but gold, really.
Yeah, like silver has a monetary component, but people are less and less. They care about it less and less.
They don't care, yeah.
So, sorry if you're a silver holder out there. I mean, you've been keeping up with gold more or less, overall. But man, I got burned once. I moved Bitcoin into silver.
You were tricked into the silver hype.
It's terrible. I lost a lot of value relative to
4chan silver hype.
Just with gold. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Let's see. We have shortwave Serpent gave us 10 cents.
I hold 95% plus of my net worth in Monero.
I 100% believe you, bro. I'm just ashamed at that other 5%. That's all I can say. I thought you were for real, man.
Because Bawdy only has Monero. He trades other coins based on his Monero leverage.
That's right.
Technically, he only ever holds Monero.
Yeah, I don't mind getting in debt for Monero to get some fiat, but to sell Monero for fiat, my God. 5%. We got to work on that 5%, bro. I don't know what's up with the shortwave. Just playing, obviously. Nihilist also tipped just now.
Yeah, I saw your. I swear I didn't read it. I saw your super chat earlier, Nihilist. I thought it was pulled up. I will pull this up on the news segment if you don't mind. A new Havino network called Dawn Swap.
Yeah, okay. That's cool. Totally fine.
Thank you, Nihilist. Yeah, thanks, Bawdy. You guys need to realize how much this guy gives so much useful, like free, like if you don't listen to what Bawdy says, like you're just kind of dumb. Like this guy gives so much free information and so many free tools and scripts for trading. View, it's crazy. I can't believe you do it for free.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. It's really nice of you to say.
And every single week too. But yeah, thanks as always, Bawdy. I guess we're gonna move on to the sort of guest segment. So I will go ahead and run that.
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
Alrighty, so it looks like Doug is back as well. So, Bawdy, how's it going?
Sir,
for your extended price report, sort of.
You had I was trying not to be too long about that one.
No, it was totally fine. Totally fine.
Yeah, fantastic.
Great as always. So you
had
who
was it that Oh, I thought somebody had said that in a super chat, but I guess it was just Tux thanking Bawdy. Yeah, man, it is amazing the amount of content, information, alpha that you're putting out there for everybody. Greatly appreciate that.
Of course, I want to have my Monero bros back on price to the extent that I can. And I know the Illuminati's, they're not listening to me. So. What's that?
This is the kind of stuff you'd pay a lot of money to a financial advisor. I'll tell you.
But yeah, Bawdy, we brought you up here today as a special guest. Obviously, everybody that tunes into the show knows who Bawdy is. We don't need to do like a traditional special guest interview here. I wanted to allot this time to getting a quick overview of the debate that you had with SuperTestNet with regards to the Lightning Network versus Monero. Is there any legitimacy to this debate at all? I guess what were the main points made on either side? Like you said, SuperTestNet just seems to kind of be ignoring reality as he makes his points. They sound cogent, and if you just read them, within the four corners of his tweet or whatever, it may be convincing, but it kind of ignores the larger reality. So yeah, if you want to kind of give a quick overview, because I honestly, to this day, I don't really understand what his fundamental point is when he says, like, kind of arguing that Monero is more traceable than Lightning with regards to even things like receiver privacy. It seems like he's like tracing his own transactions.
Yeah, he's many of us have asked the question of whether or not he's just kind of like a word cell confused in his own language traps, or is he acting in a bit more nefarious manner to try and make claims that are just totally false or largely false, contextually false. And we've had this going on for a long time now. He and I had a debate last year. If I'm being totally honest, I feel like I took it too easy on him, and I didn't really have all of the hard-hitting points that I should have had, which Luke Parker that came and then brought a lot of that to the table. And you would hope that Seth and Luke and a lot of his own developers in Lightning Network telling SuperTestNet, hey, your points are silly. He just never backed off. In fact, he only went harder, right? He only started making new claims. So lately, his major kick has been to post on Twitter challenges where he's going to trace. He says, send me your address and I'll send you some Monero and I'll trace the transaction. And so what he does is he creates a couple outputs on chain that are now your outputs, right? And then he says, aha, I know that I sent you money, but in Lightning Network, nobody knows that that I don't know how much money I sent you. And we're like, wait, what? What are you talking about, dude? Like, what do you mean?
Sweet. He's sending people money, and then he's telling them, look, I have proof that I sent you money or something.
Exactly. That is literally what he's doing. He's creating outputs on chain that he sent to other people and saying, I know these outputs are correlated to you, and now I can set a lower boundary on the balance of your wallet. And it's like, dude, stop saying lower boundary just to say, I know how much money I sent you. That's like a perfect example of how he just distorts language to make it sound like he's making, reasonable claims. And he uses all the technical jargon and he throws all the language in there, one-time public key, stuff like that. And then he makes these comparisons to the Lightning Network. And there's the problem is that there are fundamental problems with his entire position, because what he'll do is he'll take, for example, take fees. Fees are transparent in Monero. So between the 2 and 5 cents that you pay in fees, that's transparent on chain. And so he talks about, he'll pull some chain analysis video and say, well, where they'll be like, well, fees are important for us. And then they show a graph that shows very clearly that the vast majority of people are paying either the 1, 2, or 3 multiplier. And then there's some weird, high fees that some people set that are, and okay, I mean, they're probably exchanges, or maybe not, but okay, if you want to use the non-defaults, then the developers have long said you might have problems. I'm kind of rambling here. I'm sorry. I really should just make the case more cogently. There's so many there. I could just spend the next hour talking about the ways in which he distorts language to sound like he's making good arguments to trick people that don't know any better. And so Layer 2 Labs, actually a Bitcoin-centric organization that wants to work on other Layer 2s other than Lightning Network, and for obvious reasons. They wanted me to debate testnet because I've been just going hard against him on Twitter, trying to shut down his stupid claims. So if I want to like, I'll just read you kind of the opening statement that I wrote for this thing. It was like a 4-hour debate. I recommend, maybe go take a listen to the first hour or so. I lost the battery on my phone almost, so I had to like switch back and forth between my nice mic and then my cell phone mic. So if you hear these weird switches on my voice at around hour 2, that's why. Interrupt me.
I feel like this really is like what is the Brandolini's? I don't even know if I'm pronouncing Brandolini's law, right? Like it takes a lot less energy to throw bullshit comments out there than it is the amount of energy to refute those comments. So it's like you're just throwing this bullshit out there, and here you have to go have like a 4-hour debate with him, arguing against points that aren't even valid, like to begin with, from like a fundamental. It really feels like a major troll. And it's effective because not everybody is going to go watch the other side of it. They're just going to see somebody who's seemingly technical claiming that Lightning is more private and untraceable than Monero, and they'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So based on what you said, then, can I ask, what do you think his motives are?
Obviously, he's just,
he's a
his
pro Bitcoin bro.
Yeah, Bitcoin, and he probably genuinely believes Lightning can, do all the stuff that they want it to do. So he probably does think that at some core level. I think he's blinded in some ways by the anything Bitcoin, anything that's good for Bitcoin is good. Bitcoin is the good, right? So if it's good for Bitcoin, it is good. And I think he's kind of blinded by that in some ways. So it's like it doesn't matter if his claims have deep problematic fundamental issues. He's promoting Bitcoin, so it's not bad to sort of distort the picture.
Yeah, I guess in a way that makes sense. I did listen to quite a long portion of the debate. I did listen to the whole thing. It was really long. But I will say it was surprisingly, it seemed reasonably productive, and it was very insightful. And even though I, don't agree with SUPERCHAT on almost anything, and I don't know exactly what his motives are, if he's, a bad actor. I don't know. He seemed to be pretty. He's undeniably good at debating. That's for sure. Even if what he's saying is not true, even if it's a lot of word salad. And he seems to be pretty respectful during debates as well. So I think overall it was pretty cool and insightful debates. And I think he did have some real interesting points on how you can sort of accidentally gain privacy through the way Lightning Network works. The Lightning Network, as how it was originally designed, it wasn't really like privacy wasn't the first and foremost thing, but because of how it works, you can sort of get some privacy in certain ways. And I don't remember if you guys talked about any of the newer features like Bolt 12 or blinded routes.
We talked about all that.
Okay, you did, which is still not a fair comparison to Monero because almost nobody uses those, and almost all of Lightning Network is centralized and custodial. So it's still not a fair comparison, even if those features provide good privacy on top of Lightning.
Yeah.
But I think you presented Monero's case incredibly well, and clearly you did a bunch of research because you guys ended up getting into very much the weeds technically, like way above even my knowledge on how Lightning or Monero works. But it was really cool to listen to. It's a good job.
Thanks, man. Yeah, maybe it was a little bit of a mistake, I think, to get that far in the technical weeds, and I would have maybe preferred to sort of keep focused on the fundamental issues and then go harder against him just directly on some of those claims. But overall, from a technical standpoint, I think I did, reasonably well breaking some of that down. We were also, Vlad had kind of a list of stuff he wanted to cover. So there's sort of this format that they wanted to do. He actually, I was worried at first, but he actually did a really good job of sort of letting us just discuss the issues, because Super actually is a reasonably good debate partner in the sense that he doesn't monopolize the conversation, and he has a good sense of like how long he's been talking and how to do an interaction. Sometimes you get people on the show or anywhere, and they just sort of monologue for 10 minutes, and they don't know how to break or pause.
So what were his main points other than what does he say would be like Monero's greatest flaws with regards to its privacy?
So what he's doing is he'll take all of the things that we already know. So like there's the weaknesses of ring signatures, the ability to heuristically remove outputs, poison output attacks. some of the very minor degradations that could happen with fees, for example, being transparent. The fact that, yeah, I mean, you do have a record, a public record that's easily accessible for anyone to take a look at after the fact. The seizure of electronics can be problematic, right? If it seems that there are some cases where people were arrested for separate reasons, and the seizure of their electronics revealed, obviously, their Monero wallet and a whole bunch of other metadata, but then, you know, after the fact, revealed what they had been up to, and so it gave prosecution the ability to significantly point that out. So yeah, most of the things that we talk about in Monero, they're typically externalities to the chain or external entities like leveraging the chain or leveraging data on that to weaken your privacy, often involving direct seizures. And so his claim is that Lightning in a lot of ways doesn't allow that to happen. You, as a receiver, you can delete your database in a way that you can't see who sent you transactions, same thing as the sender. And you can kind of do the same thing with Monero on the sender side. You don't have to keep your metadata. So that was kind of like his overall case. In general, what he seeks to take the minor degradations of privacy in Monero that happen in the real world, and then magnify those, put them under a microscope, and pretend that they're at the same significance of the fact that Lightning just wasn't designed with privacy in mind. If I really had to sum up, so I'd like to sort of give the audience here some simple tools that they can use to conceptualize why these arguments are so bad on his part, because they sound good. You know, as Tux noted, he's actually respectful on, you know, at least on live, and he's good at debating. So the thing is that Monero has these edge case issues. They have a few, like we have like one or two major edge case issues, particularly ring signatures, right? And then O speed as of late. And then we have some minor in real life degradations, but overall we maintain a well quantified set of privacy properties, right? Monero protects the transaction parameters via direct cryptography, which is why we can publish our messages. And that's really that's how you have to protect your messages, because as soon as you network with someone else, as soon as you connect to somebody else, you have to assume that your communications are being listened, spied on. So you have to protect things cryptographically at a fundamental level. And in Monero, you can define the theoretical privacy of the system very clearly, right? You can say, okay, under these assumptions, like cryptographic hardness, here's how the system should perform, right? Rings of 16, for example, should perform at this level at a theoretical maximum. Now, when you translate that to the real world, you have leaky heuristics, and so you get degradations, but at least you have a theoretical maximum that you have defined very well ahead of time. Here's what the system should perform at. How does it actually perform in the real world? How are we not quite meeting that mark? And at every moment, you can use a great deal of specificity to say, okay, you can quantify how far we might have had degradation and what you can expect in different situations. That gives you the opportunity, if you have a high threat model, to adjust your actions in a way that accounts for that. Lightning, on the other hand, leaks heuristics by architectural design. You have this system that is completely dependent on routing your transactions through intermediaries. And when we say routing, this isn't just like, hey, pass my transaction message along Dandelion until it blooms to the whole network. No. You rely on counterparties directly in your transaction chain. You are making transactions with a whole chain of people to get to your endpoint. And in order to route these transactions, it requires something called the gossip protocol that they use to find paths. And all of the papers on this, even from Lightning's own developers, they say that there are major privacy weaknesses, and it appears to be by architectural design. It appears that these are fundamental to the network and the operation of the network. And so in Lightning, you don't have this sort of fundamental cryptographic protection and theoretical privacy as a system. You have a system that actually just doesn't have any of that. And so they layered some noise protocols on top, right? They layered onion routing on top. But onion routing, despite the fact that you are passing cryptographic messages, right? You're encrypting a message and passing those messages. Those messages are not tantamount to the transaction itself. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. We sort of get into a little bit of fuzz here, but they're not protecting for example, their node balances are unprotected by any cryptographic means. You can any adversary on the network with low level resources can probe nodes. They can probe your node to find what's the balance of your channel. Obviously, you have an on-chain transaction that represents that channel balance that's totally transparent. Your channel counterparty knows exactly how much you have in that channel with them. And so all of these things just leak heuristics by architectural design. And so what they're trying to do, and this is where Super's arguments come in, where he says, well, yeah, okay, you know, maybe it was bad, but now it's good. We have Bolt 12, we have rendezvous routing and trampoline routing, and we have multipath, and PTLCs will one day come, despite the fact they've been possible for 4 years and they're still not here. But the problem is that at a fundamental level, they have no definition of exactly what theoretical privacy you should expect from the system and how it has degraded in the real world. So you can't even, like, it's nonsensical to say that Lightning is more private than Monero when you haven't even quantified the system at a basic level. And the reason you can't quantify it at a basic level is because it's too complex. You have changing topology. The tools of making the system capable of routing transactions is the tools that you use to, are the same tools that you use to de-anonymize people, to be able to trace transactions, to say, okay, what was the balance of this transaction? Where was the sender? Who was the receiver? And so this isn't just my opinion. This isn't me like, hey, let me learn about the Lightning Network and this is what I think. No. This is what their own developers stated in 2019, 2020 with the release of some sort of seminal work on Lightning Network not being private. And they are the ones that said these problems appear fundamental to the architecture of Lightning itself. 2023, another research paper came out saying the exact same thing, expanding on their work, and then saying, you know, we did all these on testnet, but if we were to do this on the mainnet for Lightning, it would actually be likely it would be even more successful. And so you start from this premise, right? The premise, the very foundational problem is that Monero actually does have well quantified privacy properties that are protected by cryptography at the base level. Lightning has no such properties, so you just can't make that comparison. Like if you want to say, hey, it should be good enough, okay, maybe you can make some sort of highly relative claim to say that it's good enough, but it's difficult to make that statement. And my problem is that, you know, is watching Super over the many months just completely decontextualize the minor in real life degradations and making them sound fatal to Monero's privacy, all while promoting these little protocols. All they are is trying to layer noise into the protocol so that hopefully you can frustrate an adversary, but they haven't quantified that in any way. It's really difficult to quantify, if not impossible. The best they can do is sort of vaguely point at some Tor research over the past couple of decades, which has attempted to do some modeling, but Lightning is not Tor. These are totally different networks. Lightning Network has the constraints of liquidity, and you have that gossip protocol for routing. So you have this entirely different system. You can't just vaguely point at some Tor papers and think that that suffices for real analysis. And the only real analysis that they have are demonstrating how fundamentally broken Lightning is for privacy. The best thing I could say for Lightning privacy is that you probably have reasonably good protections if you use the protocols, you know, that run your node over Tor, and you're not using Phoenix or some routing manager for you, or God forbid a custodial wallet. You know, if you're doing everything right, then you might have individual sender receiver snooping protections, which is better than main chain, but it is by no means anywhere in the same characterization quality ballpark as Monero. It's ludicrous to hear this dude say those kinds of things. So,
but dude, the sender's not encrypted in Monero, but in Lightning the sender's encrypted.
You can, I had to explain to this guy, you can't encrypt people, you can only encrypt bytes, right? If you're going to say the sender is encrypted, what about the sender is encrypted? Like, you can't just make some nonsense claim like that and then a bunch of techno babble to follow and think that that suffices for analysis.
Yeah.
So what? Go ahead, Doug.
Sorry, go ahead, Doug. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so what is his take on stealth addresses? Does he even ignore what stealth addresses achieve? He seems them as useless.
Well, he points out the inherent problems of ring signatures, right? Of relying on, right now, 1 of 16. And of course, poisoned outputs, right? These edge case attacks that if you're receiving loads of outputs on darknet, probably don't consolidate your outputs to directly to an exchange. That could be a mistake. So he'll take those things that are well known. He's studied the well-known degradations and well-characterized degradations.
Yeah, but how is he applying that to stealth addresses? I get the sender privacy, but how is he applying that?
Well, what he's saying is that so stealth addresses in general in Monero, you have an output, right, that contains all of the transaction information. The stealth address, or the one-time public key, tells the receiver, hey, this is your output now, and it enables them to spend it later. What he's saying is that you can have poisoned outputs, right? Stealth addresses are synonymous with poisoned outputs in his mind, because you can attack that in that way, and definitely that's true. Like, that's the thing. He's nothing that he said about the specifics, the technicalities of how you can attack Monero is anything I disagreed with. He's just using the research, that's out there.
Well, he's
Yeah, so
presenting it.
does he fundamentally think you can't have a privacy fungible crypto on a blockchain?
Yeah, that's probably one of the big things he says is that publishing is the opposite of privating, right? You can't publish your message because in Lightning, we just never share that in the first place. And that sounds right. That has this sort of like, I don't know, simplistic appeal to it. But it's as Luke Parker pointed out to him, have you heard of encryption, bro? Do you know what zero knowledge is, right? Do you understand what computational hardness is and how that's a very different method of protecting your transaction parameter specifically, as opposed to just sort of a noise protocol where you hope you've created enough noise that the adversary can't unwind it.
Right. So he would have literally the same argument, like Zcash. He would also say is not private.
I think he has been somewhat forced to reckon with the fact that zero knowledge cryptography exists and that it would be ridiculous to argue against logarithmic hardness. So I think he's been forced to contend with that. So he's pivoted his argument slightly, but he still, in a more vague sense, asserts that, well, in Lightning, none of this gets published. So nobody can learn anything. And it's like, he just keeps saying that over and over again. Well, because of onion routing, you can't know who sent that transaction. And it's like, you can't know the destination. You don't know the amount. It's like, he sort of like, again, he uses a lot of technically dense word cell noises. And
it seems like he's always assuming the user is going to have the best case scenario of Lightning, which is the absolute most minimum of Lightning users. Whereas almost all Monero users have the same level of privacy because very little Monero users use a light wallet. Almost all Monero users, at least most of them, use a full wallet. And so it seems like his assumptions is coming from the standpoint that most Lightning users are having the best case scenario for their privacy, which is absolutely not the case at all.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of how he inverts reality. It's like he uses all of the latest protocols and the absolute perfection that jumping through 20 hoops will get you in Lightning, and then compares that to like the edge case, worst case scenarios in Monero, and then pretends
which is a completely unfair comparison. He's using the edge case, worst cases of Monero versus the edge case, best cases of Lightning.
Yeah, and it's totally inappropriate. I tried to point that out in our debate and be like, listen, dude, like look at the numbers. And he's like, well, we don't actually know the numbers. And he uses, I'm sort of characterizing the way that he says it because he'll dress it in a whole bunch of just bullshit. But I mean, he'll try and create doubt about these numbers, but it's like, listen, man, every time we turn a rock, every time we pick up a rock, turn over a stone, there's just more bullshit there, right? Like for example, we got on 1ml.com, which is sort of the who's who of the top nodes in Lightning. And you look at the top 10 list and it is literally fucking Binance, Bitfinex, Kraken, OKX, Block, which is owned by Jack Dorsey and traded on the New York Stock Exchange, right? There's just these, and they comprise like the vast majority of the liquidity in Lightning, right? Just the top 50 is like the 0.05%, just adding up the numbers in sort of a simple way. Less than 0.5% of the liquidity of the nodes in Lightning own 55% of the liquidity. And if you do the top 100, it's even worse. It's like 70%. And so it's incredibly centralized. And at the exact moments that Lightning was growing, it was becoming more centralized as it grew, basically 2019 to 2022. And so everything we can look at just points at saying very few people use these tools. Almost nobody uses Bolt 12 and all the freaking protocols he cites. Almost everybody uses
actually cool.
Say what?
Which is a shame because those are actually cool features.
Yeah, like I 100% in ways I would agree with him. I'd say use these features. It's not that I'm against noise. We actually kind of use that with Dandelion. It's not exactly noise, but it's kind of noise. It's jitter, more so jitter than noise. But it's not that I'm against noise. It's just that you want to use cryptography everywhere that you can, and places that you can't, like networking, you have to rely on noise. Like if you're gonna have an anonymity network like Tor, it's hard to protect that cryptographically. So you want to use noise protocols if you have nothing better. And that's what Lightning has. They're at a situation where it's like they can't protect your transaction properties, parameters directly with cryptography. So they have to use this noise protocol. And okay, the more people that use it, the better. But everyone just uses Lightning in a practical sense. Everyone uses Lightning custodially, or if they're non-custodial, they're using someone else to manage their routing for them, which is completely betraying your transactions to that entity. They're all corporate entities. Like
I use Phoenix Wallet, but I'm using their LSP to provide me with liquidity. So
yeah. So I would like to have maybe one more debate with him in a totally free form, because I would just completely go hard against him and say, like, I tried to maintain civility and, like, sort of this technically minded responses to him this time, partially out of respect for Layer 2 Labs and for Vlad. But he has the information, he knows about the papers, he knows about all the research, and he understands the concept sufficiently, and he just continues to put out what are now, is in my mind, they're lies, right? He could have learned, he could have readjusted his mental model. Instead, he's just going to double down on the distortions that he's made, and so I'm not going to take it easy on him anymore.
Should I invite him to Monerotopia conference in February?
Please don't. The last thing.
Really? No, I think it'd be kind of cool. Maybe we could do. Maybe can you save the next debate for live on stage? No,
maybe. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
It'd be highly entertaining.
I guess a debate maybe would be fine. The problem is that Luke's going to be there, and he's going to be shaking his, because I'm going to make little mistakes, right? Of like when
then he can raise his hand in the audience.
I'll have to like bury my head in shame and be like, yes, you're right. It's a one-time public key. It's not a stealth output. It's a one-time public key. I know. I'm sorry.
Or maybe get a little panel going. Lightning, Monero. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to him. He probably wouldn't want to come down there. Who knows? You never know. You never know.
He might, he might, who knows? He could be in Mexico at that time. So
so do you think he walked away at all being like, okay, I'm a little bit more interested in Monero, or that's just never going to happen because, like what you're saying, he just seems to be like purposely putting his head into the sand?
I think he walked away with a lot of stuff that he knows he has to try and respond to. And I think he kind of knows that he can't. So he's going to have to, my guess is he'll probably find some linguistic pivot and some other way of decontextualizing the reality to the greatest extent he can. But so if he's going to be a troll, then I'm going to be a troll. I actually yesterday spent some time, I wouldn't call it trolling, because I'm basically just saying things that are true, but I'm blunt forcing them as opposed to try and saying them in like the most technically accurate manner that I can, because you lose people when you're like, well, actually, let me spend 60 seconds describing the blunt reality that I could say in 10.
Right. Do we know his opinions on other aspects of Bitcoin versus Monero, like dynamic block size versus fixed block size, tail emission?
I don't think I've ever asked him.
ASIC resistance. I'm just curious, because I always make the overarching argument that Monero is built to be more unstoppable than Bitcoin, less easy to co-opt. Curious if he has, because that's obviously another very important element. Obviously, privacy is a major aspect to that. But yeah, I'd be curious overall if he thinks there's arguments to be made that Monero is more untraceable, unstoppable cache-like if you compare the two systems, or if you would.
No, I can tell you,
argue against all
he's not gonna like.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is not all that important to him, I don't think. I think it's mostly that he's sort of melded his mind into the presumptions, right? All of the assumptions of maximalism in Bitcoin. And so he's sort of taken his intellect and applied it inside of that box to the greatest extent possible.
All right. Well, greatly appreciate the overview, Bawdy. And for those who want extreme detail, go listen to Bawdy's talk. Where's it published? It's published on Vlad's channel.
It's probably on Vlad's channel. Yeah, I'm almost certain. It's also on Layer 2 Labs. And probably if you go to SuperTestNet, I think I reposted it as well. So any one of us, you should be able to just go to our page and then follow, scroll down a few posts.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Bawdy, for the back-to-back presentations here. We got a price report, and we got an overview on Monero versus Lightning debate.
This is now the Bawdy show.
And we're moving along faster than ever as well, which is great. So, Tux, you want to go ahead and move on to news?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that. Thank you so much, Bawdy. Appreciate it as always. That being said, I think we'll go ahead and jump into the news.
Let's do it.
Wrong one.
The Monerotopia Weekly News segment is sponsored by WizardSwap.io, a non-custodial cryptocurrency exchange.
Alrighty, guys. Bear with me 1 second while I pull up my screen here. All right. It's a little small. Let me zoom in. So this week we have I think we got some interesting news this week. First post is on X from Monero Bull, talking about Darrow and its privacy. Has anyone forgotten about Darrow yet, or does anyone still remember Darrow? This reads, people thought Darrow is private. Here are some of the on-chain highlights, starting with Captain dumping coins. So this Captain guy was one of the lead developers of Darrow. And as we can see here, because of the privacy issues that were uncovered with Darrow, the messages that were supposed to be, I guess, encrypted are basically have been all entirely decrypted, and you can read them all in plain text now. So we're seeing some transactions. Now, I don't know how they correlated it to being Captain specifically, but we can see some transactions here, and we can see some text added to them. And we see the first one says pre-mine transfer, and then another one says pre-mine, which is very interesting. And then the next post reads, Captain swapped many Darrows, probably for XMR. So I guess there's some swaps going on here, as we can read his messages. Swap TMP for TO, whatever that means. And then more images. Messages to and from notorious Darrow shill tech leaks are now open for everyone to see. That's hilarious. So all of these messages that you could attach a message to a Darrow transaction, and these are all been entirely decrypted, and you can read them all in plain text now alongside the transaction, which is crazy. And I think you can see the amounts in the transactions too. Yeah, the amount. I guess the sender and the receiver and the text itself, or the message itself, which is crazy. On-chain feds. Nice wallet name. Who are you, fellow seal? Bye Darrow. You can see a lot of people who are, I guess, offloading their Darrow, and who are just trolling people on the Darrow network, which you can read all these messages now. So that's crazy. So this is kind of cool to see, as people have spent some time parsing through all these transactions after they were massively decrypted, after Luke Parker discovered all the vulnerabilities of the Darrow network and was able to fully decrypt a lot of these things. It's funny and interesting to see. Next up, we got a post from SethForPrivacy, and it states, what started as a brief retort to a few of the points the Frank Braun raises in his excellent blog post below rapidly became a 2,500 word thesis on Zcash. A lot of my thoughts over the years made it into the post. We'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback on it. So this was a cool little post that Seth made. It was I would say it's a pretty nuanced and unbiased take on Monero and Zcash. Kind of going into why Monero ultimately has won, even if Zcash does have some technically better like sender privacy, right? Monero at the end did win, and he kind of goes into that a little bit, and he goes into why he cares and how he's ultimately a privacy maxi, not necessarily a Monero maximalist. Some people might like that. Some people might agree. Some people might dislike that. But it's a really good article, and I suggest you read that if you want to know like his thoughts on why Monero is kind of the king in the space and why Zcash kind of sort of failed. And while Zcash does have like some cool privacy tech, really people don't really use Zcash, right? Like Monero is the one that people use. So that's an interesting article. Moving on. Gotta copy the next link here. All right, so next up, we've got a post from Thomas Massie. It reads, MAGA, we want you to name and prosecute Epstein's clients. MAGA Inc. says, best we can do is 1.8 million of ads against. So Donald Trump has basically gone up against Thomas Massie and is attacking him and wants to primary him. And they are now spending lots of money on running ads against, oops, I unshared my screen. they're spending lots of money to run ads against Thomas Massie. Why? Because Thomas Massie didn't want to be a part of these really large omnibus and really large spending bills that have a lot of cruft and don't help us with the debt, all these kinds of things. And now the mainstream Republicans are all rallying up against him because he's not a air quote team player. Which just kind of shows you the state of things and where Trump and MAGA really lie, right? I think MAGA is kind of dead. It's fully like an institutional and a fully almost like a government network. There's almost no real dissidents that are part of that movement. And Thomas Massie is one of the very few, handful of congressmen that has, not taken money, at least significant amounts of money from lobbyist groups and foreign lobbyist groups like IPAC. He's one of the very few, and because of that, he gets attacked relentlessly. So pulling up next link. Sorry, I did not have time to copy and paste all these immediately. Next post is from Monero Mateo, reading, "May see the day Monero becomes more fungible than cash." So this is a screenshot of a post from Reddit that reads, "Cash becomes an EU tool of surveillance in Germany. The comprehensive use of automated serial number recognition provides the technical infrastructure for a detailed tracking of the journey of banknotes. There are also increasing efforts to store and consolidate the collected data. Cash thus becomes a tool of surveillance." So we've seen stuff like this sort of in the US where they've tried to use some means to be able to track cash with like features on cash. But it looks like Germany is just straight up putting serial number recognition into, I guess, ATMs and machines that read cash. And I guess their bills have serial numbers on them. So cash in a lot of countries is becoming not very private. And it's becoming a lot more traceable. Like if the cash goes through many hands, like in between being at the bank or being an ATM, can't fully know what's going on there, but they're just adding as much as they can to try and trace what is supposed to be and what historically has been the most anonymous way to pay somebody. And so now we're starting to see that, well, something like a digital cash like Monero might actually become more valuable to use in person, because for a long time, if you're in person, it kind of makes sense to just use cash. If you can use Monero, obviously I would, but in person, cash is still easy. Everyone accepts cash for the most part in the United States still, and cash is very private, but in the future, it may not be as much the case depending on what happens. I could see in the future maybe stores that accept cash, either they have to get rid of cash or they have to have machines that process the cash in a way, right? Like reads some feature on the cash or on the notes, reads a serial number, something like that. So in the future, Monero might be like the most private way, regardless of whether you're using like cash in person or not. So next up, we've got a post from Schmidt, and it reads, "In Wangen," I don't know if I pronounced that right, "Switzerland, you can buy strawberries with Cake Wallet and Monero." So Schmidt has been doing, I think, a post every couple weeks or once a month on him showing off his haul he got from the Spar grocery store that he paid all with Monero. So this is a really cool thing that was developed earlier this year. There is this protocol called OpenCryptoPay that was developed by DFX, or people from DFX, the Swiss exchange. And it is an open source protocol that anyone can use that is basically trying to make it easier for merchants to accept crypto. And Cake Wallet supports reading the QR codes. It supports that protocol. So any store that uses OpenCryptoPay, which right now is mostly just some countries in Switzerland, you can pay directly with many currencies. All these currencies listed here, you can pay with Bitcoin, but of course you have Monero also, which is awesome. You've got Ethereum, you've got your stable coins, you've got silly coins like Solana. But it's really cool that there is this chain grocery store in Switzerland that has adopted OpenCryptoPay. And part of the reason it was easier for them is because CryptoPay provides a service in Switzerland to convert crypto to a fiat for the store. Because while it's the most ideal scenario that the merchants will keep the cryptocurrency and keep it into the circular economy and continue that, if we're being honest, almost none of them really want to do that. And a lot of them can't do that realistically. So Open CryptoPay is providing this automatic off-ramping service so that it makes it easy for chain stores like Spar to accept crypto but not have to hold crypto, because a lot of these merchants don't want to, especially the more corporate ones. They don't want to do it. You know, it might be too volatile for them. Everything works in fiat. So that's cool. At the very least, it's an improvement in onboarding, and a lot of people can now pay for their groceries in Switzerland with crypto and privately with Monero, which is really cool. And moving on. All right, so this next post is from Dr. Simon Godek. Breaking: Donald Trump just called Republicans who want the Epstein files to be released stupid, live on TV. Trump, it's a hoax. Some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. I'm at a loss for words. Well, I'm not very surprised by this, but let's go ahead and play this.
I don't want to move past all this intrigue over the Epstein files, but I do want to ask you to clarify something you said this morning. You said this was all a hoax. Has your attorney general told you this was a hoax? What evidence have you seen?
No, it's not the attorney general. No, I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Wray and these characters and Comey before him. And it's a bad group. It started, actually, look at the Steele dossier that turned out to be a total hoax. The 51 agents, the intelligence, so-called intelligence agents, it was a hoax. It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats. And some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And so they try and do the Democrats' work. The Democrats are good for nothing other than these hoaxes. They're bad for policy. They're bad for picking candidates that can get elected. Like in New York, we have a communist running. He may get elected too, actually, but he'll destroy the city. No, it's I call it the Epstein hoax. It takes a lot of time and effort. Instead of talking about the great achievements, we've had a great gentleman yesterday, as you know, went on CNBC and he made the statement that Trump may go down as the greatest president of all in the United States. And instead of talking about the things we've achieved, we've had tremendous achievement. They're wasting their time with a guy who obviously had some very serious problems, who died 3-4 years ago. I'd rather talk about the success we have with the economy, the best we've ever had, and all of the things we've done, including the Middle East. I mean, you see it. Instead, they want to talk about the Epstein hoax. And the sad part is it's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you heard it here, folks. The Epstein files are a Democrat hoax. It is a hoax to attack and stain Trump in his beautiful, perfect image. You can see as the complete 180 has occurred over the very short time this administration has been in place. We've seen this total capitulation to not wanting to release the Epstein files for their benefit and very, very most likely foreign countries' benefits, and also his own benefit, because as we know, Donald Trump was a very good friend of Epstein for a very long time. And we don't fully know what happened behind the scenes, but it is undeniable and it's unreputable that he was a very good friend of Epstein and that he had been to his island many times. He had flown with him, partied with him, and he had known him for decades. And now he doesn't want presumably this to come out, that his name's on, going to be all over the Epstein files. Whether he could actually be charged with anything, that's a whole nother question. But it is undeniable that Trump is tied to this person that is looks very bad in the public eye for good reasons. And Trump doesn't want people to see that. But ironically, this is making him look even worse. It is making him look even worse. It is making more people hate him, rightfully so, by not allowing these things to come out and by playing the part of not of not helping to release the Epstein files. And we saw the 180 that Pam Bondi did, Kash Patel did. Oh, suddenly there's no list. There's not even a list. It doesn't even exist. This whole time we were talking about, oh, we have the files, we have the list. Well, now it doesn't even exist. So, and releasing doctored footage of the prison that was edited and is missing some time in it, stuff like that. So not super surprising, but just unfortunate. A lot of people had a lot of hopium around, oh, we're finally getting to the bottom of this. It's finally going to come out. And of course, that didn't happen, and it's not going to happen probably ever. The machine keeps going on. And post from Mallard Beekman. Breaking at AG Pam Bondi's DOJ is mad that Roman Storm's defense mentioned privacy rights in opening statements yesterday. The United States is attempting to prohibit Roman Storm, a privacy software developer, from discussing why anyone would want privacy for legitimate reasons. And there is an image that reads, see if I can zoom in on this. Dear Judge Fila, the government respectfully writes regarding two issues raised by defendant Roman Storm's opening statement yesterday. First, the court previously relied on Storm's representation that it was not necessary to resolve the government's motion in the mind-polluting arguments and evidence regarding privacy rights unless and until Storm testified, and did not rule on that motion. After Storm's opening statement, however, it is now necessary to preclude evidence and arguments based on privacy rights. Second, this court should preclude Storm from eliciting testimony from his expert, Matthew Greene, about, quote, dangerous gangs and, quote, people being threatened, harmed, and even kidnapped for their cryptocurrency, which testimony is irrelevant and inflammatory and would invite impermissible discussions of privacy rights and or notification that Storm previously foresaw. At a minimum, the court should require Storm to provide additional information regarding this aspect of Greene's proposed testimony. So it looks like they don't really like that he's bringing up legitimate reasons why people might want privacy with their cryptocurrency. It's kind of, we've kind of been such a backward society that you have to justify certain things that really should just be normal, right? Like having privacy with your finances shouldn't have to justify that. Having private cryptocurrency and allowing that to exist shouldn't have to justify it, but unfortunately you do, and they don't like it when you do. So he is trying to justify why you want privacy to help show that, you know, this isn't just created for people, for criminals and for people who are stealing money and for people who want to launder money, whatever. It's created for anyone who wants privacy with their cryptocurrency. All right, up next, a post from Senator Cynthia Loomis. I am alarmed by reports that the U.S. has sold off over 80% of its Bitcoin reserves, leaving just 29,000 coins. If true, this is a total strategic blunder and sets the United States back years in the Bitcoin race. And then this was a quote tweet from the Bitcoin magazine, which reads, U.S. Marshals revealed the government now only holds 29,000 Bitcoin worth $3.4 billion instead of the estimated 200,000 BTC. Now, where this Bitcoin would have gone exactly, or why they would sell this much out, I don't know. I don't know how true this is, or if the Bitcoin maybe went somewhere else. There is another quote tweet from Lola Leets that reads, full list of BTC holdings. Request was dated March 24th. Response is from today. DM your email, I'll send you the files. Total BTC holdings are 29,000 or approximately 3.44 billion at current price. U.S. Marshal Service liquidates assets in public auction. So unless they announce a sale, this list should be accurate. If you want to pay another 10,000, I can go that for you. So that is interesting. I'm not sure if anyone else would have any insight into that. I don't think anyone here really cares that the government decided to supposedly sell a bunch of Bitcoin or never owned it to begin with. Moving on. This is a post from Representative Marjorie Talyor Greene. Remember when Canada froze the truckers, Freedom Convoy bank accounts, and crypto when they protested against vaccine mandates? Canada, not China. I do remember this happening. I think this was 3 or 4 years ago. Congress is passing a bill today, the Genius Act, that opens the backdoor to a central bank digital currency, CBDC. The Fed has been working on this for years. The ultimate goal is to move us to a cashless society and digital currency. House Republicans want a ban on CBDC, but the Senate says they don't have enough votes to pass a ban on CBDC. Johnson refused to allow us to make amendments to the bill and says he will put the ban on CBDC in the NDAA. But if it won't pass now, it won't pass then. So why are we passing bills to lay groundwork for a CBDC that can be used against us in the future by another authoritarian regime? We saw what a politically weaponized government looked like the past 4 years. Just wait until we get another one that can turn off your bank account and stop your ability to buy and sell. I am voting no. I mean, yeah, CBDC is definitely worse. It's kind of just an advancement of the existing system we have today, if I'm being honest, where the government can't exercise control over the air quote private banks to freeze your money, steal all your money, prevent you from being allowed to bank. And of course, the banks themselves often prevent people from being allowed to bank because of politics. So a CBDC may be worse, but a lot of people are already using a bank account, credit card for everything, and they're already in this controlled system. A CBDC just kind of further ties it to the central government and the Federal Reserve and makes it even easier for them to control that, which isn't ideal. But the focus should really be on just using private digital cash, using cryptocurrency that can't be controlled nearly as easily like Monero, mainly Monero, I would say, and then using cash while you still can, or even using things like maybe gold backs.
Yep.
Well, I just accidentally pressed the back button on my mouse. That was
okay.
Links that I had for today. Let me check my bookmarks. I don't know if I had anything from this week. I don't think what was already brought up.
I could pull up. Let me pull up.
I think had a link that I was going to pull up too. I got a copy.
Yeah, hold on. I'll pull it up on my end. I just want to show from this week's show with Zach Shapiro. Let me see if I get it up here. So yeah, as I was saying at the outset, I had Zach on this week, and he is very well versed in all the bills that they're trying to pass right now: the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and the banning of CBDCs. We talked about a bunch of things. Recommend people go check it out. It was a really good conversation, and Zach is like, he's a legit OG and really does know his stuff, especially with regards to regulation. We differed in opinions on whether or not the Genius Act was good or bad. I'm of the opinion that, I take more of the Marjorie Talyor Greene standpoint. I do view it as a backdoor CBDC. Clarity Act, really, as I look into it more, it really does look like it was put forth to help things like the Trump coin not be labeled as a security under the SEC. But within the Clarity Act, there was also an important aspect that looks like a win for privacy tech and true cryptos like Monero that wouldn't be labeled as a security on the SEC, but rather would be labeled a commodity. And in addition to that, there'd be protections for kind of the developers and users of these truly decentralized networks. So let me go ahead and play this clip here. I think that kind of captures where we start to talk about the potential benefits of the Clarity Act for something like Monero.
How about some do you think we need some legislation around privacy coins and privacy tech? Like, the Trump put out an executive order, right? That basically, in my opinion, announce protection for these technologies, that the government shouldn't be going after these things, didn't name Monero by name or privacy tech, but just like open source, decentralized things like that. But do you think we need some kind of extra protection for things like Monero, Zcash, Samurai, that the right for people to transact peer-to-peer freely without censorship or surveillance, the right to use those tools, right?
Yes, we do need that, and it's called Section 110 of the Clarity Act.
Okay, that covers that. So,
Yes.
I mean, this would be obviously very bullish then for, is it fair to say we could be bullish in Monero land if that passes, in that there shouldn't be a concern that one day government may come after you in the United States if you're using Monero or developing Monero?
If we pass Section 110, well, look, I actually think the United States Constitution should already protect you, right? If you're developing on Monero, that I think that's protected First Amendment activity.
I would
if you're using Monero, I think there are a host of constitutional protections I would assert if the government tried to claim you didn't have the right to do that. If you're committing crimes with Monero, then you're committing crimes, right? And the state will come after you.
But this idea that through the Bank Secrecy Act, they're putting pressure on exchanges and whatnot.
Section 110 would alleviate the Bank Secrecy Act concern for developing on or using Monero.
That's tremendous. That's freaking tremendous.
So let's all get behind that one. That's
so yeah. More Monero bros should be out there like cheering. Like, I know they don't like to cheer on the state. Either do I. But if what Zach is saying here, and I think he's like the guy who could actually answer this question.
Yeah, read it for yourself. As I keep saying, Section 110. You can pull it up in the Clarity Act.
So like, do we then see? Because right now, Monero. Are you in New York, by the way?
I am.
Okay, so I'm in New York as well. I'm sure you're aware that Monero is not on any centralized exchanges in New York and never has been.
Yeah.
And that's primarily because of the bit license. So obviously that's a state law, not a federal thing. But does this Clarity Act move us towards a world where Coinbase would be listing Monero because, like we said, they shouldn't have any of these federal concerns any longer?
I don't know. I mean, so the bit license is its own concern. We need to get rid of the bit license. The bit license is an unmitigated disaster.
Oh yeah.
And
how do we get rid of that? By the way, is now the time to strike?
Yeah, I mean, so I've had a number of conversations about this. I actually don't think it would be that hard. We just need an organized effort. It's a state politics thing. You just need to whip.
Let me know what I need to do, Zach. You got my contact.
Yeah. More to come on that. But
all right.
I think the thing that's keeping, I don't think it's illegal at all for Coinbase to accept Monero. No. I think it's a reputational thing. I think Monero has a really bad reputation.
Yeah, right. They don't want to deal with the regulatory pressure from.
I don't think we're gonna get a law passed that like forces Coinbase to accept Monero.
No, not that forces them, but that gives them the regulatory clarity where they don't feel like they're taking an extra risk listing Monero. Otherwise, they'd have no reason to listen. I mean, it's one of the oldest.
But I don't think that the reason, if I'm being honest, the reason why Coinbase doesn't take Monero, it's not that they're worried about the Bank Secrecy Act applying to Monero. In fact, the FinCEN guidance, I think, is actually pretty clear. It talks specifically 2019 guidance. Your readers should read it if you haven't done that. There's a section on privacy coins, and it says decentralized privacy coins are not money transmission. I think that's pretty clear that Monero is not covered by the Bank Secrecy Act. I think the concern is.
But we also then saw them go after Tornado Cash in spite of some of the things that are in there as well. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, look, no one is angry about that than I am. But arguably, Monero is more clearly covered in the 19 guidance than Tornado Cash. But I think there is a perception that a large percentage of Monero transactions are illicit, and that Coinbase doesn't want to incur the compliance burden, not of the Bank Secrecy Act applying, but of like just the amount of they'd be concerned that they're accepting a bunch of dirty funds, right? From dark web.
So, but like they hold Zcash though.
Yeah, I think that my guess is that
Zcash
might have to do with a relationship with DCG, but.
Right, so that's what I don't know. It's more.
I think it's a business decision.
It's more of Zcash versus Monero thing than
maybe, but I think a lot of it is they're a public company. They have a lot of compliance infrastructure, and they do not think that the money they would make from opening up to Monero would adequately compensate them for the compliance costs and risks.
Yeah, which seems pretty crazy to me. Right, so. Which kind of gets back to if they clarify things, then.
But it's pretty clear that Monero is not subject to the Bank Secrecy Act. The problem is the perception that Monero is largely used by criminals. It's not that there's a regulatory framework.
Yeah, but that makes no sense. That's crazy. That makes no sense. Monero is used on XMR Bazaar, so that's literally just a framing thing. So that's just people realizing that they're wrong.
Well, look, I think that is something, if there was a Monero Policy Institute, right, the number one order of business is to teach people.
That would be like me having to be out and advocate, like, no, cash should be allowed, guys. We shouldn't eliminate cash. Yes, criminals use cash, but we should be like,
I guess the perception is the relative percentage of people using XMR relative to cash or Bitcoin or whatever is much higher, right? It's just a much higher percentage of criminal use. That may well be wrong. I have no idea. But that's something that I think, like, if the Monero community wants to have a big impact, you want to fight that FUD piece. And look, certainly this was a big FUD piece on Bitcoin for a long time after the Silk Road. I certainly have empathy, but I think the reason why centralized exchanges don't want to touch it is the perception that a lot of it is criminal.
And on
Oh, looks like you're muted.
Yep. Yeah. Sorry, I will leave it at that. I was rehashing it for myself, actually. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. So what he's saying with the Clarity Act, that Section 101 is quote unquote bullish for Monero and privacy tech, protects users and developers of things like Monero. And then he kind of makes an interesting argument saying that really, obviously now is the time to eliminate the bit license, whether or not the Clarity Act exists or not. But in his mind, he doesn't think the issue with Monero, regarding Monero not being listed on Coinbase, even has anything to do with regulatory clarity, which doesn't really make sense because he's also saying on the other side of the coin, well, they're concerned about, dealing with regulations, right? So I'm not really following his lot. Like, it's more of they don't want to be associated with Monero because of the brand of Monero is the argument he's making, which is really unfortunate. And, maybe he's right. I think at the end, he kind of talks about, their support Zcash. Yeah, they take Zcash, but not Monero because they're in with the digital coin groups. I think that's really like the key and the insight. And it's more of a Zcash versus Monero thing that Coinbase wants to bolster something like Zcash and hurt something like Monero for whatever reason. I guess they just literally have more Zcash bags, right? Or the digital coin group certainly does. So all interesting stuff, but I think major takeaway there is this Clarity Act is good, is positive for Monero if fully passed with that 101 excerpt in it.
Oh, it already did.
Oh, and it did. And was that 101?
Are you saying it already did?
I don't think it officially passed yet. Or it needs to maybe just be signed by Trump at this point. I'm not entirely sure, but
and that's called the
Clarity Act, yeah.
Clarity Act.
And he's saying it's Section 101 that would kind of be
it's HR 3633. It passed the House.
Right.
Okay. Yep.
So, I mean, the idea, the concern is that Section 101 will be removed before
will be omitted before. Yeah. Of course.
But maybe not. Maybe they keep it in there. Because the other conversation I had with him was, all right, well, they had the this Genius Act, which I don't think is too great. Clarity Act, all right, seems cool if they keep that 101 in there. And I was saying, wouldn't it be awesome if they, we were seeing other legislation get passed, like, the elimination of capital gains for crypto transactions? He was like, yes, obviously that'd be great. I support that. That's something that's being worked on, obviously for de minimis amounts, right? Not for all amounts. But
it was like under like $2,000 or something like that.
Yeah. So I think we will see that. And then the other thing I brought up, well, wouldn't it be cool too if, there was some legislation that was passed basically very clearly protecting tools like Monero? And he was like, well, that is being passed. That's Section 101 in the Clarity Act. So, yeah, that's that. I think it was a great interview. And I'm going to try to actually link up with Zach again because he's a New Yorker as well. And he's also interested in trying to eliminate the bit license. So I know I've been talking about that once in a while on this show, that I want to do things to move us towards that. So I'm going to try to get Zach involved in that effort as well. Maybe we do something. I'm thinking maybe we try to do something at PubKey. Tux, you're familiar with PubKey. I was thinking maybe we try to get like an eliminate the bit license event happening at PubKey. We get Zach involved. We get Nick Spano involved. Obviously, Cake, Vic, I think would very much want to participate as well. And then maybe we get some local state elected officials that are interested in these topics and try to push things forward that way. Because I do feel like now is the time to strike with eliminating the bit license.
Yeah, I know that's something that you've been talking about wanting to try and.
I mean, it's crazy, man. I live in New York, and
you live in New York, yeah.
And you can't. Monero's not listed on any centralized exchange. No New York residents have access to Monero. I'm out here talking about it all the time. Obviously, it's plenty of New Yorkers.
That's why you got to start selling to everyone, Doug. You got to be the liquidity of New York.
Yeah, well, I don't want to go to jail. So I'd rather, somebody else could do it. Vic is in the business of that, and I think Cake does quite well probably with offering that ability for people to obtain Monero in New York via Cake using the instant exchanges. But I want to open it up to more people, get more people on. Obviously, we say, all right, well, there's great benefit for Monero because it keeps people off this, from getting KYC. They're not using centralized exchanges. Yeah. I don't know, man. Cuts off.
Or Havino, as Shortwave is screaming in the comments.
Yeah. Which is great, man. When I talk to New Yorkers all day, every day, they no, I'm really into this thing, Monero, and they're like, over the many years, right? Convinced many people that are like, oh yeah, that's how do I get some? I'm talking noobs, right? If I said, well, go on Haveno, they'd be like, what? So I got to go download some software, and then they would never do that. They're like, I don't see it on. The reaction is, oh, how do I get it on Coinbase? It's like, oh, you can't. But then it leads to a whole nother discussion of, well, why? Why can't I buy this crypto, but I could buy all these other ones? And so I think now is the time to open it up here in New York City, and I think it would definitely help, not hurt Monero, if more people could access and purchase it.
I'm still kind of in between, like the pros and cons of having it on the exchange. I'm not like, oh, it shouldn't happen, but I'm like, we did see some cons with, like, for instance, Binance in particular having.
Yeah. But we're cool with it being on Kraken, right? And would you want it to be delisted from Kraken? Probably not.
Definitely
right?
not.
Right.
No.
So why we got okay with that, but we don't want New York to New Yorkers.
Shortwave says yes. Shortwave says yes. Delist it from Kraken as well. That would be interesting. That would be interesting to see. What would happen exactly? I think there would be an immediate price drop followed by sort of a growing, a very rapidly growing price movement, because liquidity would immediately tank, and then the people who do actually want to get their hands on it, and if there's a hacker that wants to get their hands on it, it's going to be. But ultimately, even though it would be interesting to see, and even though it would be like, oh yeah, maybe it'll skyrocket, whatever, I don't think it would be good.
No.
And I think Kraken is a good example of an exchange that's a good one to have Monero, because they are one of the better exchanges, for sure. They are not doing the same scummy things that, at least not that I know of, not that I've seen, that Binance have done. And anytime Monero has ever been under a lot of upward price movement, or they've had there's been a lot of pressure on the liquidity for Monero, I've always been able to withdraw from Kraken. I've almost never had any issues with using Kraken to get Monero. So
there you go. Yeah, and if you eliminate the bit license, you don't need Coinbase to list it. Kraken will just be offered to New York customers, and I'm sure at that point Coinbase will list it, right? Even if they're currently not doing it for other reasons, just to compete, they wouldn't want to lose those. New York
potentially, people. Especially as we see Monero is just getting harder to ignore. I know a lot of people don't talk about the price, but the price is kind of an important aspect in the adoption. As Monero starts to go up in price, it's becoming less and less ignorable, and more institutions are going to want a piece of that, right? They're going to want to be able to take advantage of, like, oh, people are buying Monero. You know, we got to list that right now so we can get more people on our platform. So,
exactly. All righty, we're about 2 hours in, 360 live viewers. Guys, like, retweet. We're actually flying through today's show faster than normal. It's usually about
I do have one link I need to bring up that I promised Nihilist I would.
Okay, yeah, cover that, and then we'll do a viewers on stage.
Yes, let me pull this up here. All right, so this was a link provided by Nihilist, and it is from Monero.town, which reads, New Haveno Network Don Swap. So I'm guessing this will be an alternative to Rito Swap, which is the current, I guess, the largest Haveno instance, basically. So it looks like there's another one that has come out called Don Swap, and it is a decentralized open source non-custodial peer-to-peer exchange platform built with Monerotopia at its core. It is based on the existing open source core base of the Haveno project, which aims to support the rapidly growing Monero community and crypto in general all over the world. Okay, so it looks like it might actually be a soft fork of Haveno, code-wise. Going to continue reading this, making it easier for everyone to trade crypto and fiat currencies, the middlemen, yeah. So I wonder if they actually talk about how it compares to Haveno right now. Yeah, get all that. Characteristics of the Don Swap network: cryptocurrencies, XMR, USDT, USDC, ETH, BTC, LTC, BCH, DAI, other assets supported, gold, silver, gold back. Okay. Some of those might be new. Wide range of fiat currencies and payment methods to choose from. I'm not exactly sure how this is different to Rito Swap. If someone else is aware of that, I would likely love to bring them up if they could explain, because I have used Haveno, but I don't know all the specific details and how much this compares to it. I wish they would have given a direct comparison to Rito Swap or Haveno in general. But you can check it out at donswap.com, a very minimalist website, which I'm sure a lot of Monero people like. And then I think there was another link. I think. Oh yeah, Neil sent another link to his website, which I can't open in this browser because it's not Tor browser, so I won't be able to share that one, unfortunately. But with that being said, I think I will go ahead and move on to viewers on stage segment. If anyone wants to come up and talk about today's episode,
it's the viewers on stage segment.
Oh, that's not the new one. Where'd it go? There it is.
The Monerotopia Viewers on Stage segment is sponsored by XMR Bar. Play dice with Monero using a privacy-respecting and provably fair algorithm. Go to XMR.bar. As always, verify and never trust.
Please gamble responsibly in accordance with the laws of your jurisdiction.
All right. I will send the link into the comments. Anyone wants to come up? We've got Shortwave Surfer, as always. Hey, Shortwave Surfer. And we've got, I'll bring Bawdy up if he wants to talk about anything as well. How's it going, Shortwave?
So as far as I can tell, there is no difference between Don Swap and Rito Swap other than the team behind it. So we don't know the team for either one of these exchanges. As far as I can tell, Don Swap has a 0.6% fee for trades, where Rito Swap at least currently has a 0% fee until December, and then it would change to 0.5 likely. So the fee on Rito Swap might be slightly lower as of January 2026, whereas right now Don Swap currently has a 0.6. But as far as I'm aware of, we don't know the team behind either one of them, but they're basically carbon copies of each other. It's basically Kraken compared to Coinbase, if you wanted to go the CEX comparison route.
Okay, well, I guess Rito Swap is sort of the better one to use right now in that case. I mean, it's good to have multiple. And to my knowledge, these are like independent instances and there's no federation going on between.
Correct. So if ReToSwap were to die tomorrow, DawnSwap would still exist. If DawnSwap were to die tomorrow, ReToSwap would still exist. If the feds were to shut down one or the other one would still exist. This is just further decentralizing and saying, hey, this exists and you can't stop it.
That makes sense. But if you want to you can't access customers from one instance from a different one. Is my understanding.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's cool. I mean, I guess one's better. You know, two's better than one, of course. But don't know who's behind it exactly.
Imagine all the liquidity is on
ReToSwap, but I wouldn't necessarily say that you should only use ReToSwap because of that case. It's a chicken and egg problem, where you kind of want to encourage people to, you know, use it. I have
both. So I just installed both on my system, so I can just open them side by side and use them right next to each other.
That's handy, actually. So, like, you could have offers on one Rito network and on the other on Dawn network as well.
Yeah, you can't use the same. You can't use the same Monero for the offers, but you could offer. Say you were going to sell 0.1 Monero, you could send 0.1 Monero to your Rito wallet and offer it, and then you could send 0.1 Monero to DawnSwap, your DawnSwap wallet, and offer it.
Yeah, you can split the offers.
I envision some kind of client-side UX where it would be possible to interact with multiple instances from the same client.
Yeah, and I think that could happen too.
Multiple.
That was discussed a while ago, actually, but visibly it's not brought into fruition yet. But I'm hopeful. I mean, I think that would be a great feature to have, like one client, multiple networks. It's like connecting to a server for a video game, for example. Like, I think that's a good thing to have.
The client would just have a little combo box that would say, "What network would you like to connect to?" And you'd put in an onion address of a seed node or something like that, and it would connect to that.
Or you could connect to multiple at the same time, so you can see information between both of them without having to disconnect from one.
Yep.
Yeah, that's just software and UI design. I'm certain that can be done.
It could be, yeah. Just would have to have funding for that, or someone be interested enough to do that. But yeah, ReToSwap is pretty cool. And I'm guessing the volume is continuing to go up a little bit.
It was down. It was down in June, and so far it's about the same so far in July as it was in June. But like there was a big spike in May, and then it dropped a bit in June, and right now it's at what it was in June at max in July. So I think it's going to be above June but below May.
Sounds about right, following the price trend. Now that it's cooled off a little bit.
Yeah, and to test if the new heavy node network is trustable, if anyone wants to try it out, I recommend doing a dispute, and then you basically check how the arbitration goes. Like if it happens smoothly, then I guess the DawnSwap team is trustable, and that's the main check you guys need to do if you want to verify if you can count on the arbitrators or not. That's the first thing I did on Rito.
Ultimately,
oh, go ahead.
I was saying ultimately we don't know who's behind it, so at some point, you know, there could be a problem with something, or like they stop responding to disputes or whatever. But that's kind of the game it is.
Yeah, and the big thing is honestly just never do a swap for more than you're willing to lose. I'm blanking on the name right now. The one that lets you access multiple exchanges at once. The big one, Trocador. That's the one. On Trocador, you only do an exchange for what you're willing to lose. If you're not willing to lose it, then do smaller exchanges. Do multiple smaller exchanges for that amount.
Makes sense, yeah. in any case, that's a good thing to have multiple Avino networks. I think there will be some competition, but yeah, you know, if you're DownSwap, you have to compete with the already existing presence of RetroSwap.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're not doing that. They're not really competing with RetroSwap. Now, I think it's impossible to, considering RetroSwap currently, like Shortwave said, has a 0% fee until the beginning of next year. But even then, DownSwap's current fee is still higher than it's going to be for RetroSwap. So that's a little odd. Not sure why they, you know, have a higher fee. As far as I can tell, based on what Shortwave said, there's no advantages to DownSwap. They aren't actually giving you anything better than RetroSwap right now. They're just a different team.
Yeah, they should remove the fees to at least try to compete. Because right now, yeah, like you said, no incentive to go there.
Yeah, sorry, Simon B. Alaskanon is not currently here. I know, usually fills in the Beers on Guest segment. He fills in the dead air. But it's kind of an odd day for the stream, so I guess he wasn't able to make it.
We are trying to move this one along, so I don't know. Alaska can quickly sabotage that effort. As much as I love having him on. Oh well, hopefully Alaska A&M will be back next weekend. Yeah, I think so. For back to our regular Saturday 11 a.m. time. I'm sure he'll likely stop by.
I'm trying to parse through this bill here, the Section 101.
It's actually Section 110.
110?
Not 101.
I'm reading the definitions. Okay. In the accident of going to 101 instead of 110, I found this. Let's see, 29A. It defines, dang it, I wrote down the definition, but a related person. A digital commodity related person can be one of two things. But the second one is a person that acquires 1% or more of the total outstanding units of such digital commodity from a digital commodity issuer. I don't know if that includes mining or not. That kind of makes it sound like Satoshi is now a digital commodity related person.
And what is that? What is the implications of that?
I'm sure they're just littered with definitions. I'm looking at this and I'm having a hard time tying it all together. But I guess, yeah, he's a person that is related to digital commodities. He's got like 5% at least of the Bitcoin supply. But it also says from a digital commodity issuer. So I don't know.
Right. The other thing is what they're defining as mature, what they're called mature blockchains, right? So these are the ones that essentially will be considered a commodity versus ones that aren't mature, which would be considered a security, or they haven't matured into a commodity yet. So I then think there was some discussion. I don't know where. I'm seeing somebody's posting here on X Breaking. The Clarity Act now recognizes only 3 blockchains as likely mature under U.S. standards: Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano, which is interesting.
Cardano is
well, the Cardano guy. What's that guy's name who runs?
Charles Hoskinson.
Yeah, he's like really tied into the regulators. He seems to be one of the, he was one of the guys, I think, advising the Trump administration on these bills. So no surprise there that Cardano is considered one of the mature blockchains.
Monero is definitely going to meet that definition. I mean, with what 12 to 19,000 with 12 to 19,000 nodes mining all over the world, there's no way that would be not mature.
Yeah, that would be ridiculous if they were to not consider Monero in that classification.
Stuff like Trump coin is a security. It's issued upon Solana or whatever I think it's Solana.
It was Solana.
So that's obviously a security.
Yeah, but ironically, I think this Clarity Act helps Trump coin in defining it not as a security, though. Believe it or not. Yeah, here's that tweet. So yeah, he's saying this shows Bitcoin likely mature, fully decentralized proof of work, fair distribution, no central control. Ethereum likely mature, decentralized proof of stake with broad development and public token distribution. Names a few others that wouldn't be considered mature: BNB, XRP, Cardano, likely mature, public proof of stake with diverse validators, and no single holder over 20%. How do they even know that?
Be careful, boys. Only play with the mature blockchains. The young nubile blockchains could get you into trouble.
DA says the free blockchain list is not official.
Okay. Where'd you see that? In the comments?
DA Sales mentioned that.
All right. Well, we shall see. But yeah, I mean, it would be shocking if they were to somehow not label Monero as a mature blockchain, but wouldn't put anything past these guys.
Knowing their modus operandi, they're probably not interested in taking any of that to court to define it in any kind of way, because it just shines more light on Monero.
You have to wonder if they've even considered Monero. Like they're talking about Ethereum, which is number 2, and Bitcoin, which is number 1, and Cardano, which is in the top 10, and like all these that are in the top 10. Have they even looked down the list far enough to get to Monero to even consider classifying it as a mature blockchain?
100%. They 100% have. Before they went radio silent on Monero in government bureaucracy, right, in their departments, it was the number 2 mention. I remember 2019, 2018, 19, and 20. It was the number 2 mention to Bitcoin. Like these darknet analysis, they would talk a lot about Bitcoin. Monero was a distant second, and like maybe once or twice a year you hear about Ethereum. But it was Monero.
Now it's like it doesn't exist.
They 100%, yeah, and then they just went radio
their only
silent out of
play
nowhere.
was to not talk about it and hope that it just kind of goes away.
Yeah, look how that's working out.
Unfortunately for them, that's not happened. That's another thing that really pissed me off about Super Testnet's like misrepresentation of stuff. He's got his website where he tries to present all these cases that Monero was traced and got criminals imprisoned, but it's always been an externality to Monero itself. It hasn't been through Monero. Like the recent case we saw, I think it was last week, of this British kid that got essentially convinced into accepting Bitcoin instead of Monero, and that's ultimately how I pwned them. It's a lot of cases of people who happen to use Monero got caught through something else, through some peripheral means to Monero, but not Monero directly. And even if they say that they caught that, like even the governments themselves, and the departments and stuff, they'll try to play it off as like, yeah, we caught this criminal who was using Monero, but they don't always tell the full truth. So, but you have to dig a little deeper, and if you do, you have to find out that it's not actually through Monero they caught them.
I don't condone illegal activity, but if you are participating in illegal activity and you're ever asked to accept anything other than Monero, say no.
Here's another one to extend on what Shortwave just said. If you ever have a friend or an acquaintance or mutual, and they're like, "Hey, I know someone that wants to sell, they want to buy a bunch of Monero for cash," and if in any way, shape, or form they're like, "Oh yeah, I got this from selling illegal stuff or some kind of illicit funds," run away. It's a sting operation. They always are. Never, ever trade. I mean, you shouldn't be selling for, unless you really need cash. But anyways, like, yeah, if you ever run into a situation like that, run far away, because it's a sting operation. Never sell your crypto, or especially Monero, to someone that said they got those funds illicitly. It will land you in jail every time.
100%. They shouldn't be anybody that you're trading Monero for cash. That like why they shouldn't even be telling you their backstory really of why they need it or where it came from, right?
I had someone tell me once it was for like fake ID websites, so I told them I couldn't certify.
There you go. XMR family, your sound is really bad, man. Would love to hear more from you if you could fix your sound a little bit.
But your doggo is really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I'm at the beach. I didn't know today was the day. Does my sound better?
No, it's like super fuzzy and stuff.
All the static.
Huge thank you to XMR family, by the way. He's the one that landed me the interview with Zach. So
I think you said you're at the beach, XMR family, so you just need to talk closer to your microphone, because if you're at the beach, what we're hearing is the ocean is really loud and you are really, really quiet. So you just need to eat your microphone.
Here is the mature blockchain system definition. In the bill, the term mature blockchain system means a blockchain system together with its related digital commodity that is not controlled by any person or group of persons under common control.
Okay, so Monero fits that definition.
Broad. I would certainly say so.
Oh, before I forget, you mind if I bring up one more news thing I forgot to add to my list? We mentioned it last week. I'm just going to mention it again. So next week, in less than a week, July 26th, Saturday, there's a privacy meetup in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Great Wagon Road Distillery. And we're going to have a few talks there. There's going to be Cake Wallet sponsoring. So I'll be doing like a kind of a brief presentation on Cake Wallet Monero. There's going to be some Bitcoin people, hopefully some Monero people. There's going to be hopefully several other projects represented as well, potentially Edge Wallet, and a few others on the list there, as you can see. And so if you're nearby, July 26th, this is from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. So if you're in that area or want to come on down, please do.
Speaking of Cake Wallet, the background sync feature is working fantastically, even over Tor, because I have it set to sync every single hour, and I use Monfluo to like send a super chat to you guys, and then like 15-20 minutes later I get a notification from Cake Wallet that says you sent 0.003 Monero to blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh.
I'm glad to hear that. That's awesome. I know some other people who have had very good success with the recent iteration of background sync. Personally, I don't use it, and I can't use it super easily because I have way too many wallets. I counted recently. You know how many wallets I have in my main installation of Cake Wallet? Just take a guess.
50.
15.
83. Actually, probably 86 now.
Why more? You'll go back in time.
Most of those are like, if I test something really quickly, like someone's having an issue, I'll just create a new wallet, and so a lot of these wallets have dust, and I need to figure out how to consolidate them. Like if it's Monero, it's easy, but if it's like Bitcoin, I don't want to get rid of it, but at the same time, I don't necessarily want to just consolidate all these wallets together because I don't remember what they're used for. Even though I've never bought anything illegal or anything like that. Oh, buddy.
Make sure that when you do, you consolidate directly to the exchange.
Of course.
What could possibly go wrong?
Of course, definitely.
I know that we're not supposed to churn. Kind of the research is really unclear, but the only case that it feels like it has to be true that if you have shitloads of outputs, like 86 of them, that like you should consolidate to your own wallet first before sweeping all those funds to some other entity. Like that has to be true.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so for me, I don't use the background sync because I have too many wallets. It doesn't go through it well, but that will probably add another addition to that feature to allow users to choose exactly which wallets they want to background sync. So if you only want one or you want a couple, you can do that. But for most people, like having 83 wallets is kind of a me problem. For most people who have a normal amount of wallets, it works perfectly. So big UX improvement from Monero.
One thing I've noticed, it's not really a major problem, but it doesn't seem like the wallet has an automatic create change outputs. Like sometimes I'll notice just in the regular course of using the wallet that my funds will be locked into like one single output or maximum two.
Yes.
Is there any work to sort of automatically say, okay, or like an option where you can be like, hey, create 4 change outputs, something like that?
I think that would be a good option for the send screen. We had considered adding an automatic feature, sort of like what Pocket Change in Monerujo was, but we didn't like some of the potential heuristics of having that feature with how like ring signatures are right now. So definitely with full chain membership proofs, we will explore adding a feature like Pocket Change to Cake Wallet. But I could see it being useful, and if it's random enough, like an option on the send screen, adding an option for change to be created. Now you can do this sort of already manually. You can create a template. So like I've done this. I created a template from the send screen, and that template is just sending to like me basically like 4 or 5 times, splitting up my balance. It's not as ideal. It's more manual, but We'll definitely explore adding that option to the send screen. But certainly when FCMP++ finally comes out, we will have an automatic change feature, hopefully similar to Pocket Change on Moneruho.
Cool.
Yep, that's what I do. Once in a while, I'll just send, I'll just take whatever I have and split it in half and send it back to myself or something like that, and just do it that way so that I have multiple 2 or 3 different outputs instead of one.
You know, I finally looked a little bit closer into OSpeed the other day in preparing for this debate with Super, and it's really clever what Rucknium did. Because you think, how the hell can you find the real distribution of spends, which is what he did. And it's cool because the way that he solved it, I know we're going to full chain membership proofs, but the way that he solved that problem and the way that if we weren't going to full chain membership proofs, that the output selection algorithm would work, it's really cool.
One other thing is that I absolutely hate having to sync from really far back in the chain to get caught up. So every once in a while, I don't have a specific time to do it. I just do it at random sometimes. I will take all of my outputs and send them all back to myself, and then set my restore block height to 10 blocks before then. So if I was to do it right now, I would send all my Monero to myself right now, and then set my restore height to 10 blocks before.
Yeah, you'll basically just do a sweep to yourself a couple times a year type of deal.
That way I don't have to sync from 200,000 blocks or 300,000 blocks back in the chain, especially over Tor. Oh my God, that makes it so much better.
That's a great idea. I'd never thought of that. Brilliant.
Yep, just send all of your outputs to yourself and set the block.
And of course, regarding change, Monero, the way it tries to consolidate your inputs kind of does the opposite thing. It kind of makes it harder to have change, but I know that's for privacy reasons. It's trying to consolidate your inputs.
TikTok. Well, if anyone's interested, since there's nothing else, I'll tell you guys how Rucknium did this thing with OSpeed. So you have 3 distributions that you care about, like statistical distributions. One of them is the ring of 16. What is the age of every single output in each ring? So you know what that distribution is because it's on chain. You know the other distribution is the output selection algorithm, right? It's just algorithmically what we set, what we believed, what we thought at the time was the closest distribution we could think of. Again, for the age of outputs selected. And then the distribution that you want to get at is what is the actual age of the actual spend of the entire aggregated system. You don't know that one. But what you do know is that the distribution of the ring of 16 is a mixture of both the real spend and the output selection algorithm. So using some advanced distribution statistical means, I don't understand it, how they do it. I just know that it's out there. What they do is they sort of subtract out from the full distribution of the ring of 16. They subtract out, if you will, the output selection algorithm, and what's left over is the actual distribution. And in doing so, it means that instead of a pure random 1 in 16 chance of guessing the correct output, you can sort of rank order them in terms of how far do they diverge, right? Because you have the output selection, which chose 15, but they end up diverging from the actual distribution of spends. So you can rank order them in terms of of how far those 2 distributions are different. And then you can now you have a 1 in 4 chance of guessing the correct output. However, it's not as simple as saying, oh, you can just discard with 12 outputs now. It's really not that simple. If you tried to do that, for example, if you said, well, just discard all the 12 lowest outputs, you would end up throwing away the correct spend about 30% of the time. So you have a little bit of a gambit that chain analysis would have to do to say, well, how many outputs do we want to remove? It looks like they had a 99% chance of throwing out 8 of them. So that's pretty high, right? So our ring sizes are effectively significantly lower. But the good news is that the system, and I mentioned this in my debate with testnet, is that ring sizes of 3 are actually quite strong. In a pure vacuum, they're really good.
Yeah, I need to state as we
So the devs, you know, they went to 11, and then ultimately we went to 16 to give us that safety margin for events exactly like this.
Trump put out an executive order, basically, in my opinion.
Hey, Doug, all right, it sounds like you're trying to say something. I don't want to overtalk you. Are you? Okay, sorry. I thought you were trying to interject there. But anyways, yeah. So our ring sizes, I mean, you can colloquially say they're effectively 4, but
in a very specific scenario.
Yeah, like you're still very well protected, and any particular spend, you still have the plausible deniability of ring sizes of 16. Maybe in the legal sense, 99% is sufficient to rule out 8 of them, I guess. I don't know. But we still have good protection. I still wonder how does that interact with the black marble attack that happened, right? If they're able to sort of reduce the ring size, and then the black marble, like how much could that have given them? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like combining all these things at the same time to get an even greater insight. But yeah, I know we keep saying soon, but hopefully in less than a year, maybe a year, we'll have FCMP++ already being used on the mainnet, and that'll make a lot of these things totally obsolete. Like Ospeed will be totally now. I mean, it won't be totally obsolete in terms of like I imagine there'll still be research and work being done to try and unravel previous transactions, but going forward from that point on, it'll be meaningless for current and new transactions.
Yeah, I mean, it's really something to keep in mind depending on how you're spending your Monero and what your personal threat model is. If you're just paying for Nano GPT, probably you don't care as much as if you're accepting money for selling Bibles in China on the dark web. You know, you could be a different model for each person out there. So
yeah, and if you want to be extra safe, the easiest and like most simple and pretty effective thing you could do is to just have separate wallets depending on the purpose. And if you're pulling off of an exchange, so like let's say you have a lot of Monero on Kraken, you pulled it out, that wallet that you immediately pull your Monero out of from Kraken, don't use that one to spend as well. Send a certain amount, like whenever you need it. Like don't do everything robotically at specific intervals. Do it kind of more naturally and like randomly. So whenever you need, top off a separate wallet that you only spend from at random times, and that is an extra way to kind of distance yourself from the exchange and to create even more ambiguity about where funds have gone ultimately. And that helps especially if you're going to be, because like some people don't always think about this, but a lot of merchants that you might pay for online, even ones that accept Monero, oftentimes those funds go into their wallet and go to the exchange, or sometimes even go directly to an exchange, which creates an even like less of a path, which makes it even easier for centralized exchanges to try and see where funds have gone ultimately. So just adding one extra wallet creates a lot of extra safety and ambiguity, and helping to prevent, like ultimately trace the funds where they gone, and helping to prevent EAE attacks a little bit more. But once again, once FCMP++ is out, all that will be largely meaningless, and you will be able to just have a single wallet for the most part, and use it however you want, because all of these things really revolve around ring signatures, which is the biggest weakness right now.
Yeah, definitely that idea with having 2 wallets is a really good way to prevent poison output EAE type attacks. Because yeah, I mean, as soon as you've given out your sub address, hypothetically, any entity that gets a hold of that can just send you little dust outputs or small outputs. Maybe you won't notice them. But if you just have your receive wallet and then you periodically consolidate those into your other wallet, then yeah, you've basically eliminated their multiple outputs that they can later try and correlate.
If you want to go a step further, every time you do top off that spend wallet from your air quote KYC wallet, send it to a new sub address every time. Don't use the same one. And then if you want to be even more crazy, when you're pulling out from the exchange, when you're withdrawing from the exchange, send it to the same wallet, but a different sub address.
Yeah. Or like, especially if you use those instant swap exchangers, definitely give them a new sub address every time, and at least like put them under a separate account, right? Like, because you don't necessarily have to have multiple wallets, right? You could just do multiple accounts. I know there's some.
That's a very good point. I forget about the accounts feature, and that's partially why I have a bajillion wallets in my Cake wallet, because I totally forgot about the feature that's very much present. But another thing too is, I have to brag about Cake a little bit here, is that one of the potential, I think someone brought this up a year ago. I don't remember who it was, but there was a potential correlation issue when using swaps on Cake Wallet, because when you swap in Cake Wallet, the client, the app automatically passes through a refund address in case you have to get refunded for whatever reason, and that happens if you make a quote, even if you haven't received funds. And so there were cases where the same refund address for different wallets like Bitcoin and even Monero would be passed through between multiple swaps and multiple requests, basically API requests and quotes. And that's a problem if you're trying to, distance yourself and you're not trying to have them be able to correlate multiple trades. So now what we do is, if an address has been included as a quote, like in the refund for a quote, it immediately gets added to a blacklist, so it never gets used as a refund address ever again. So even if that address hasn't received any funds, it still won't be included in a refund quote, or any refund for a swap quote, even if it hasn't received funds before, because we already have auto sub address generation, which if a current address has received funds, we discard that one, switch to a new one. But we have extra protections in place, so a user can't accidentally have the same sub address be used multiple times for a swap. Of course, it doesn't matter as much for Bitcoin and stuff like that, but for Monero, it definitely matters.
Yeah.
You guys are doing a hell of a job there at Cake, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we want to provide the best UX we can for Monero, because while Monero is pretty good, it has a lot of things you can do on the client side to make the experience much better. Because it's to be honest, it's not the easiest, it's not the worst thing to use. I'd say Lightning in some ways is more complicated. It's more complicated to get privacy on Lightning. The default way to use Lightning custodially is super easy, but you have no privacy. But it's not the hardest thing either. So there are some things though that we can continue to do, and then things we have done like background sync to improve the UX, and then in the future with new hard forks with some changes coming to address types with view keys, and I think like view tags or something like that, we'll be able to do an enhanced version of light wallets that'll provide light wallet experience but more privately. I think that'll be a huge user improvement, is being able to provide light wallet experience, but that's actually private. Instead of LARPing like Edge Wallet saying that it's private and easy, but they use the current implementation of Monero Light Wallet, which gives away your private view key. So
yeah, I think if you are a Monero user, you have to use Monero.com wallet. Like you don't have to use it as your main if you don't want to, but you have to have it, because it's just so easy to recommend to other people. They're like, how do I use, like, what do I download to use Monero? It's Monero.com. Like, that's what you use. Like, I'm a Monfluo user. That's my primary wallet. I like Monfluo a lot, but I always keep Monero.com on my phone because it's such a useful tool to have just right there. If I need to explain something to somebody, I can just open my Monero.com wallet and be like, oh, click here, and you're done.
I've become more suspicious of wallets like Exodus and Edge Wallet. Maybe, I don't know, specifically Edge. Any wallet that sort of re-implements Wallet 2 or the output selection algorithm, or does anything non-standard with fees, like any of those things are all red flags, because they're gonna leak
fingerprintability.
data. Yeah, exactly.
Especially for wallets that don't have that many users, it becomes a much bigger issue.
Hey, are y'all able to see in your data how many people are using silent payments in Bitcoin?
Unfortunately not, because we literally don't have any analytics in the app, which, you know, was intentional, but is also a little bit unfortunate because we can't determine like if users are actually using features. But we can sometimes determine how many users are using a feature based on support requests we get, which is a good and a bad thing, because it allows us to see that it allows us to basically voluntarily see that information, but it also means because there's support requests, there's a problem. So when we've had major issues with silent payments, we have gotten quite a few support requests, which does show a good amount of users. It's still a relatively niche thing, but part of that is because the experience isn't great right now because it's such a new thing. But in the future, I could see it becoming much more widely used as the experience gets better.
Have you guys considered doing user surveys to be like, hey, what features are your favorite, or what features do you use? Either by email, like an email survey if you have emails, or like directly in the app or something?
I don't know. It's kind of, I mean, maybe we could do a thing from the app. It's hard to do something like that in a way when the user base is so fragmented between like normie users and, you know, like power users who aren't on any of these, you know, more mainstream platforms. Our user base is so, like, we cover such a broad amount of use cases. It's kind of hard to capture all of that at once. I guess we just kind of generally see what people are asking for online, like in Telegram or on X, and even in some of the smaller channels like Matrix and SimpleX, which are not official. So it's, yeah, right now it's kind of just like what do we see people asking for online in general, but potentially we could do a survey type of deal. It would be kind of cool to have some sort of anonymous analytics, but it would probably have to be opt-in, and then at that point you aren't really capturing that much of an actual like user base, because most people probably don't opt in, and, you know, normie users wouldn't anyway, or power users wouldn't, maybe normal users would. So it's kind of hard to, it's really hard to just get a total like average or count of like who's using what feature. Now, in general, we can see how many users are actually using the app, at least for if people are using like iPhones, and if people are using I think Play services. Google and Apple provide us with a like sort of aggregated data of like, okay, how many active users do you have, in terms of like if a user, I think, is opening an app or updating it. I don't know what the actual metric is. So we can kind of see how many active users we have between those platforms, but that doesn't count if someone's not using the Play Store, and it doesn't count if someone's using, you know, F-Droid or GitHub or the desktop platforms.
Raise
So
his hand.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I said raise his hand because that would be me. F-Droid.
F-Droid, yeah. Yeah, so it doesn't count those. So we have limited statistics, and that's partially on purpose, but it does come with, you know, some downsides. I know a lot of apps that do use anonymous aggregated statistics, but I don't know if that's something we would even want to do because of, you know, what we're trying to provide and what users have expected for such a long time, which is absolutely no analytics whatsoever.
I've just been, Bawdy, did you try to take a look at the bill? Have you been looking at it at all?
I was like kind of glancing at it while we were on the air here, but I haven't actually read it.
Like, I'm not seeing section 110. I'm not seeing it included here. I mean, here they're calling it application of the Bank Secrecy Act. And then I found this amendment. So was it this amendment that was never passed? And it's this amendment that talks about the things that Zach was bringing up. In this amendment, you see section 110 as being treatment of certain non-controlling blockchain developers. So that's the juicy part we wanted to see. Why am I'm not seeing it here? I don't know. Maybe
it's one of these things where just glancing at the definitions, it feels like it's laden with definitions, and they're going to use those throughout the entire bill. And those definitions are going to be narrow, specific things. They're going to interact in very particular ways. I have to imagine they've thought a lot of that out and how those interactions take place and what they could argue and mean in various contexts in court. I'm always suspicious of lawyers and corporations and legislation, so I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm just saying even worse than that. What I'm seeing, HR 3633 as passed by the House, Digital Asset Market Clarity Act of 2025, does not include the Section 110 that Zach was referring to. They've now replaced that. Section 110 is now application of the Bank Secrecy Act. And then if I pull up, so you guys can see
what was the title of what it was supposed to be? You're saying that's a different title?
Yeah, I'll bring up
for
here,
section.
you can see here. I don't know if you guys can see it. I found over here.
Now, did you try to search? Did you try to search to see if they removed it entirely from the bill, or if they just moved it to a different section? Say now maybe it's section 111 instead of 110, or something like that. I don't know if they do that or not.
I don't see it in there. Yeah, I don't see it in there.
What is section 110 supposed to do actually?
So section 110. Wait, can you guys see? Hold on, I'm trying to bring it up over here.
It was supposed to be the part against that stops the prosecution of developers of the open source softwares.
Right.
Okay. However, it's been changed apparently.
No protection for the developers then.
Yeah, I mean that was like the most positive part of the bill. Is this it? Here it is.
Too positive.
Exactly. Too positive. Sorry guys, my computer's, I think my internet's slow over here or something right now. Is it going? There we go. Boom.
I noticed they did it.
Here it is. So yeah, here section 110. I don't know if you guys can see here. Treatment of certain non-controlling blockchain developers. So this was amendment in the nature of a substitute to HR 3633. So maybe the amendment was not included. And then it also has all, the same sections that you see in the bill that did pass the House. But now section 110 is not referring to treatment of certain non-controlling blockchain developers. If you go down and see what that actually talks about, if I could find that. I don't know how to quickly find that without scrolling through all this. But basically it talks about everything that I was discussing before, that blockchain developers and users of, true decentralized blockchains, don't have to worry about being labeled money transmitters or being associated with the development of tech that's could be considered a money transmitter. So that sucks. Unless I'm just not looking at this correctly. I actually just DM Zach to see what he has to say about it.
Yeah, I'm looking at this as well right now on congress.gov, and what they have listed here is different from when you open the PDF.
Oh, okay. So is it in the PDF?
In the PDF, when I open it, yeah, if you run a search for developers, you get section 110, treatment of non-controlling blockchain developers. But then,
okay,
but then when you go back to the non-PDF version, just what they have listed on the page, right? Like you showed in Title 1, section 110 is now implementation instead of. So I don't know which one is which.
Does it give a modification date for either of them? Because whichever one would be modified later would probably be the correct one.
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Let's see. On the PDF, I'm not seeing any like official stamps or embossing, so I have to imagine that's not necessarily amendments. Maybe it's in amendments.
Yeah. A lot, these things are never very clear.
625. It takes an act of Congress to figure it out.
Yeah. So at the very top, it says shown here, reported in house 6/23/2025, and that's like just on the text tab of the website. And let's see here. I'm seeing dates like June 23rd, 2025. That's just 6/3/2025. That's the same. There's reported in-house and there's introduced in-house. Okay, maybe that's it. Tell me this is... No?
Just in case if the article, the section 110 got renamed, I would try to find basically the keyword, like developer, for example. I would try to find where it's mentioned in the other sections, basically. That's what I'd recommend. Maybe it just got renamed and the number got changed or something.
Yeah, what I'm looking at, I looked through the whole bill. I'm not seeing it anywhere. What I'm looking at here on congress.gov, not the PDF, but the text that Bawdy was referring to.
Okay, now I am finding it on it's in a different section 110. Did they move it to a separate title? It appears to be here.
Can you share your screen?
Yeah, hang on one second.
You're on congress.gov?
Yeah. I made my life more difficult when it comes to copying and pasting. I have almost fixed that difficulty. I basically made myself a cubes implementation.
You have to go from one cube to the other.
Yeah, exactly. I have to do like a hotkey Control C and a hotkey Control V, but I've gotten deep into the entrails of X11 to fix that. So I'm very close. I've got about 700 lines of C to replace the current 700 lines I have. Anyways, it's a separate topic. Let me share my screen now.
Bawdy has 200 IQ, by the way.
If only, bro. I could do
at
so
least 200 IQ.
AI is a 10x, bros. Like when you know how to use it, it just massively makes you more productive. Okay, so right here you can see, if you look at the right, I'm sharing my screen. I don't know if I'm streaming yet, but at the right, like way far down, you can see where I am. Kind of. So we have section 110, right? Treatment of.
Oh shit.
Wait, so that's there. But what's weird is if you go all the way to the top and you just scroll down. Let me zoom in a little bit. You scroll down. This section 110. Now that's application of the Bank Secrecy Act. Just a second ago, that was just a second ago. That was implementation. That literally just changed in front of me, like right now. So I don't know, but then yeah, if you just do a Control F for developers. Yeah, then so I guess it's still here. Maybe it's
so. What section is it in?
Yeah, I don't know. It says section 110. Let me just scroll up stupidly and do it the slow way and see what we can find. There's section 106. No wonder they have to have just teams and teams and teams of lawyers.
They really snuck it in there. We can't even find it.
You could just dump this into AI and just ask it if it can make heads or tails. Sometimes that helps. Definitions. We're close. We got to get to section 101. All right, so here we go. Title 1, decisions, rulemaking, provisional registration. So now we have treatment of developers under Title 1 like it's supposed to be. Are we just looking at multiple revisions and they're doing a bad job of telling us which revision is which?
Yeah, like I just want to see the final version, right? And is it there?
Sounds like, oh god.
Or
is there multiple section 110s, like maybe a Title 1 110 and a Title 2 110 and a Title 3 110, etc.
It does seem like there's two section 110s. I'm not. So this is the first one at the top. Now it's application of the Bank Secrecy Act. It literally was implementation a second ago. I have no idea how that changed. So there's this one here, but then there's a second one further down. I have no idea what the difference is between the two Section 110s. I don't know. Maybe
All right. Well, the Clarity Act isn't really instilling too much clarity for me. I'll tell you that much.
No, I'm sure it's here. I just don't have actual 200 IQ to parse it. So
we need a Clarity Act for the Clarity Act. All right, guys. Well, maybe this is a good place to end it. We're nearing 3 hours, which is actually pretty good for us. We're normally a 4-hour show here. So yeah, I think this could be a good place to stop unless there's anything anybody else wants to bring up at this point.
Nope, go right ahead.
All right, guys. Yeah, let's kill it here. We do these shows typically every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Today we did it on Sunday. I'll hope to be back to Saturday next week. And thinking maybe try to throw something out there if people want to meet up at some point in Portugal next week. I'll try to put something together. Maybe we meet up in Porto or
Monerotopia and Portugal win.
Well, we already have MoneroCon here. So I don't know if Monerotopia in Portugal is happening at any time soon. But yeah, maybe try to do like a little meetup at a cafe.
MoneroCon's in Czech though.
Yeah, no, now it is. I'm saying we did have one here in Portugal.
Oh, okay, that was before I was.
Monerotopia in Antarctica.
The first MoneroCon in Europe was in Portugal.
Okay,
it was great.
I did not know that.
It was awesome. It was in Lisbon.
Very cool.
It was actually a really cool venue. But yeah, I might put something out there. Try to meet up at a bar or a cafe in Lisbon or Porto as I talk to these other Portuguese Monero users for purposes of trying to meet up and get some euros. Maybe we'll put together a little something if people want to come out. So stay tuned for that if that happens. Otherwise, see everybody next week, 11 a.m. Eastern.
The seagulls are really going off
on Saturday. They're very loud seagulls here. This is an amazing place. It's beautiful. As I was telling Tux, like super hot, southern Portugal, but the water is surprisingly chilly over here. It's not Mediterranean, it's Atlantic. I knew like in northern Portugal, obviously I was like of the mindset that I'd be dipping into some cold water, but I'm surprised it's so cold down here. Slightly north of Africa, I thought it would be a little warmer, but very clear, beautiful, great for swimming. And yeah, which is what I'd like to get back to. So we'll kill it here, guys, and see you guys.
Thanks for everyone for coming on. Short but sweet. And I don't know, this may or may not be my last stream. I guess we'll see. But I just want to thank everyone, and I want to thank Doug and Sunita especially for letting me do this for 2 years. I've been doing it for, that's a bit time, not nearly as long as Doug's been doing the show, but 2 years is still, I can't believe it's been 2 years, to be honest. And it's been a great time. It's been a great opportunity for me. I've loved connecting with so many people in the Monero community and becoming known. So yeah.
All right, Tux. Like I said,
you were on stage with
you're always welcome to join anytime you want, anytime you're available. Obviously, we'd love to have you. I hope it's not your last. We'll see what happens, but I know you're.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. But if it is, Tux, tremendous thank you. Tremendous.
Yeah, man, it's been really. Yeah. I hope you're not leaving, but it sounds kind of like you are. Well, anyways, it's been really good, man. Hanging out with you on stream and everything. So.
Yeah, and if there's others that want to reach out for potential co-host opportunities, we have Shortwave on deck, but he's not looking to commit kind of full time to the job. So if there's anybody else that wants to be a co-host, please do reach out, and we'll see if we can make that happen. All right, guys. Adios.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group.